Hey everyone. Hi and welcome to another debugging session with Marlin. Or, well, it's a first. But as far as you know, there have been many. This is, let's see, what day is it? November 11th, 2017. It's now 8:39 p.m. here in Austin, Texas. I'm at the ClearCube offices. I have my old Prusa i3 and a Creality CR10 to mess around with. My laptop is plugged in, and although it is plugged in and supposedly charging, its power is going down at 1% per minute or so. So I don't know how long this is going to last. I may have to take breaks and continue streaming later. But I thought I'd get a start on this and take a look at what's going on with the latest bugs. To give you a little background, just recently did a pretty big overhaul. The internals of Marlin have always used offset coordinate space, which means that if you were to do like G92, X100, it would move the whole coordinate space and clear by 100, set your current position to 100 if you were at 0, and then, well, no matter where you were, you would offset the coordinate space by the difference between your current position and the new position, so it would move it by 100 if you were at 0. And the whole coordinate space would move, and then that would become part of the kinematic translation for Cartesian. It would end up being propagated to the stepper counts and everything. So if you wanted to get the current x position, you could just grab a stepper position, multiply by the the steps per millimeter setting. I'll tweak my microphone if I need to. I have a nice condenser mic. And then you could just get the current position in terms of Cartesian and go back and forth. Very nice, very convenient until you get to kinematics, and until you get to bed leveling. For all those, you have to first subtract the offset of the coordinate space so that it's normalized, then do your kinematics, and then do your bed leveling, and then maybe add something back in. Or if you wanted to get the kinematics back out, you would have to first do kinematics if you were in a kinematic system like Delta or Scara, add these offsets, and then you get back your Cartesian position. And that was, it had certain convenient aspects. It was kind of nice sometimes to be able to do that. But again, it added overhead because every time you wanted to get a single point corrected for the bed leveling, you'd have to first subtract the offset, do the bed leveling off of that non-offset position. And it occurred to us that it probably was a big waste of time to have these offsets when they don't really apply to much of anything internally. When you want to get a position to probe, you have these probe positions that are, there in kind of they're in a neutral space, and they can be offset for your current positions, but you always have to offset them. And so it just became obvious that to do all these things, it would be better to be working in a native workspace with no offsets. Of course, it's a big overhaul, and although I thought I got just about everything, there were a few glitches. And that would include the one we're looking at here. No, wait, that's skew correction. There's one around here, one of these windows. Let's see, this is it. Wrong extruder offsets after native machine space, Alexi has reported. So I'm looking at that first. So that's where we're at tonight. I'm going to be looking at issues and glitches caused by this big overhaul and trying to catch the last of them. And in order to do that, I could just stare at the code, but I figured it would probably be a good idea to install it on one or more of these printers over here and really see what's going on. And the thing is that this person's using a dual nozzle system in which they have a switching nozzle. They're able to switch from one to the other. I guess it has a servo. And when it does that, of course, the nozzle's new position needs to be known by the coordinates space. And then, we're good to see you. I'll bring up the, I may bring up the chat stuff on my iPad here. It may be easier to deal with chat on the iPad and save some processing on my laptop, which is now down to 41%. So, sorry, I may not be able to keep this up. But what I'm going to try and do is bring up my activity. What's going on? EMI. Let's go down to here. So I have too many subscriptions, and if you ask me, YouTube does not make it easy to get through them. Here I am. Not a whole lot going on this chat, on the iPad version of YouTube. It says nothing's happening on this particular channel. Well. I don't believe it. I think it's mine. Let's see, who am I? Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, the stream health is questionable. There it goes, okay. Check 1, 2. Yeah, I think I'm trying to do too much networking. I'll have to, so never mind iPad. You can get off the network. There we go. All right, so let's get back to Alexi's issue and do a quick update of Marlin on these devices. All right, so first things first. If you're like me, you have your GitHub desktop, and your several configurations for Marlin have been uploaded to GitHub, and when you want to run your newest version, you simply grab your latest configuration, open your terminal, you MF up to get the latest version of the upstream and try and rebase on it. All right, looks like it's in good shape. So now I can open this up in Finder. And we'll just go to here, get the INO, and open that up there. Arduino, 39%. For a second, Arduino takes a while to open, as you know. Just put that away for now. All right, Arduino. I've taken to keeping 2 sketches open in Arduino. Just keep one blink sketch open. That way, if I happen to close Marlin to open another one, it doesn't quit on me. Okay, so let's check our serial ports. Is that it? Okay, it is. That Mega 2560 it is. The Creality has a 1280p. All right, port, good. And let's hope it all works. All right, I'm building and uploading. And let's see how that goes. Oh, there's something, hold on. For some reason M290 still doesn't have the patch that I looked at for M290. Constrain, yeah, okay. I don't know why that patch never got in. So what I'm going to do is apply this other patch. If I want to put this up on the server, I have a little shortcut for that. I'll just get the hash. I'll do an mf new, which gives me, that's another custom script. Fix into my ID, I'll call it. This gets me a copy of bug fix 111, or 11x. And then I can do git cherry pick, get that commit, and I can just push it. Upstream head bug fix. Okay, I've updated Marlin. Okay, so back to here. I won't be doing that. If I do mf up here, it'll, oops, get it back together here. No. Good, okay. Very good, okay, I should really upload that again, just because I don't use M290, but it might come in handy later. So, let's see, it's compiling, linking, uploading. Okay, great. Back to the GitHub desktop. The issues that, there we go. Wrong Extrude offsets. Okay, so this I want to check. What's going on? Is the upload done? I'll hear it in a second. When my machine boots up, it runs auto 0G off the SD code. And that gives me read it. It's verifying. I guess I have it verified. An error has occurred in my stream. Let's take a look at what else is going on with OBS. Claims to still be streaming. So what I'll do, I'll reload the live dashboard. Ah, it is live. It is live. Okay, good. Just checking. I should know these things. All right. So what's going on with this peculiar nozzle offset? This particular offset is the one that applies when you have two nozzles or more, and it allows you to basically tell the machine how far apart they are, so that it knows when you switch tools to move the other nozzle over, so it'll be in the current position if it can. And there are some options to deal with that. Since I have only one nozzle, I'm not sure whether or not I can tell Marlin that it's, yeah, I think I have a way to do it. Let's pretend I have two nozzles. And let's fake it out. So I have two, and then I have to tell it that I have a temp sensor. I'm going to use 998 for that temp sensor. And I think that's it. Oh, well, you know, actually, I'm not sure it'll let me do this. We'll find out. Basically because my board is a ramps, and I'm not sure it'll allow me to have that many nozzles. Oh, and I should put in, yeah, heater 1 pin is not defined for this board. Okay. Well, I guess I can't experiment that way. That's too bad. I'll bring Arduino over so you can see. Look, heater 1 pin is not defined for this board. Okay, fine. That's what it's going to be. Let's see, I'm going to try this out. Good. There we go. I would like to put some of these things away and hide them. That would be nice. Presumably, it will save some, on some processing if I hide this stuff. So we'll just do that for the time being. I doubt it will allow my laptop to start charging, however. Pretty much if I have more than a few things plugged in, it stops telling me it's charging the battery. Basically, apps using significant energy, everything right now. Yeah, even for some amounts of energy, OBS especially. Whew, so sorry. So sorry, little Macintosh. Okay, let's go back to my config, and we'll stick with one, and we'll just look a little closer at that issue and see if there's something obvious that we can find. The question for me is going to be, it's not a very good bug. Sorry, Alexi, but even though I've been given some details, I prefer to hear, like, I did this, and this is what happened, and I was expecting this, and it did this, and then when I tried this, it did this, and I get a few different samples, and that gives me a much better picture of the issue. Alexia just pretty much told me that it exists, and then when I asked more, it was like, it still exists, and it also exists. So, okay, Lexi. I accept your challenge, your puzzle challenge. So, first off, right, M218. That's right. Let's go there, shall we? As we can see, the hot end offset for X and the hot end offset for Y are there, they're working, they're good. There is a setting called home offset, and I'm almost certain that I didn't confuse hot end offset with home offset. But let's search for all instances of hot end offset. See what's going on. The only place it applies is, at least in Marlin 1.1, is throughout Marlin main. In Marlin 2, it's a little bit more spread out. So here we have X home position given an extruder number. If it's 0, we return the base home position. Otherwise, it's a dual X carriage thing. So we don't really care about that. So moving on. The next place it shows up is in the software end stops, where, again, dual X carriage has some special handling. And then elsewhere we find, again, M125 makes use of it. M125 is a park head-on pause function. And again, this applies to dual X carriage. So let's put that away for a minute. Moving on, next, M218 is where it gets set. And I assume the next place is tool change or something. Oh, here we have it again. It is something you can set with M605. Oh, no, it's something which is reported when you're in duplication mode. X, Y, Y. Interesting. Duplicate extruder X offset. So this is duplicate extruder stuff. All right, moving on. Next, current position. All right, now this is more tool offset stuff involving tool change. Let's hide the dual X carriage part. And see if there's anything after that. Here we have parking extruder. That's an interesting one. My friend is not using, Alexi is not using the parking extruder, just the switching extruder. So, here it is. What happens in the switching extruder? Well, one thing that happens is we get something called Z-diff, which is the difference between the two Z's. For the switching nozzle. We don't really care about that, so I'm going to skip that. Next we have, if we're using planar leveling, there's a correction that occurs to the current position based on the hot end offset. Right, again, it needs to know, in this case the bed is tilted, so it's easy to figure out, based on only two different points, how much they may differ in Z, just by calculating the tilt between them. Let's hide that if he's not using planar leveling. Now here we go, XY diff. Now things are getting interesting. We need the XY diff, and we get that in a pair of variables, X and Y. Let's see, is there anything going on where temp extruder gets, or active extruder gets set early? I'll make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure active extruder doesn't get set till the very end. And, it has to be set ahead of set axis of the home. But that applies to dual carriage, so that's fine. Dual X. Moving on. Just make sure it's not getting updated anywhere. Okay, next place it's updated is way down here after all this. Okay, good. Good to know. Just making sure. That's a possibility, of course, if that got glitched. It couldn't be. So hot end offset again. Yep, so that's the last place it applies. And the only thing that happens here, again, is that it corrects the Z position. And it doesn't affect the current, oh, there it is. Now down here is where XY diff comes into play. So the new selective extruder is actually at this new position. Now here's the interesting part. If we have a workspace offset, or dual carriage, or parking extruder, then we apply it to the position shift. This might be wrong. Think about this. The way it used to work was, since we had everything offset, the position shift was something which you would subtract later when you wanted to get the real position. Now, we may, I'm trying to think if we really want to have the position. I know that one of these things applies, but the other doesn't. This is where it gets a little confusing. Let me think about this for a moment. Okay, so it used to be that the position shift would change and the current position would change, which meant that when you reported the current position, it would accurately show that the position had changed. Here, if I've got, I'm not sure this would apply here now. This is a little confusing. Because, of course, there's a few different instances in which position shift used to apply. Let me take a quick look at what I did during the actual big change to the workspaces. We go back to, Firmware Marlin and look at the most recent pull requests, closed ones, and go to the native workspace. For goodness sake. Same shortcut should apply everywhere, shouldn't they? For selecting and okay, here we go. So original native workspace change. Oh, there it is. Operate in native machine space. I called it. Okay, so let's take a look at the 1.1 version. Pull that up. Here we go. Now, if I look at all the changes and check out what happened in tool change, which is in that somewhere in that 15,000 line Marlin main file, yeah, which is why the diff is so big. Okay, so here's what happened there. I'd like to isolate these, but we'll just take a look at what happened. So if we go down, look at all the changes. You can see why it was, why it might be hard to get everything. Where are we now? We're at almost there, almost there. Inactive extruder. Okay, coming down, coming down. Let's see, XY diff. Where are you? You know what helps if I just check up the line number. 11,150. Okay, I'll take your word for it. 11,000. Yeah, clearly not. Things have moved around a little since then. Mesh line to destination. Okay. Buffer line. Inverse lines. Alright, obviously I've missed it. Let's just see if the words tool can come up. Ah, readily. There it is. Okay. So, yeah, evidently the main thing that I did here was simply remove, in the case of a dual X carriage and the parking carriage, get rid of this, these bits. You don't need the logical X position. You can actually use the raw position. Okay, but clearly the this position shift comes into play. So what do you think? Does the position shift matter here? I know that you do want sometimes you want the software end stops to update. Like in the case of dual X carriage, you want, you definitely want the end stops to be pulled in based on where the nozzle is. And as I look at this is the only place that the software end stops are getting updated. Let's just break up here a little bit. Corrections. Okay, so clearly we're not in dual X carriage situation here. In the dual X carriage situation, we do call set axes at home for the X axis, and that actually has a side effect. Yeah, I know. This is not Haskell. The side effect of updating our software end stops. So going back to non-X carriage position stuff, we come down to this again. The new extruder is actually at this position. The position shift, I think we can generally get rid of. I know dual X carriage might, well, apparently dual X carriage does what. But how would dual X carriage come into play here? Go back a little bit for a second. Yeah, see, this is not dual X carriage. You can't even have dual X carriage here, so I just need to make that clear. That there is no dual X carriage action inside of a block where it's disabled. So going back to this, if we have a parking extruder or if we have a workspace offset, we're changing the position shift. The position shift only really should apply when the coordinate space itself has been altered. And therefore, I think that this is wrong. And I'm simply going to delete it. I'll pass that on to Alexi and have him give me a good, thorough test, but I believe that's at least correct. The other thing here is that if I update the software installers, well, there's almost no need to do that now. With this new change, the one thing it'll do is it'll update workspace offset, which is only needed if position shift changes. And I believe that's probably why the call is there. In the case of a delta, it may change the soft end stops based on a change in position. And as I look at this, I see offs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I see. But the soft end stop minimum position should be this, and then again, plus off. You know what? This doesn't belong here either. The offset, which I'm getting here, has to do with, if you look at the soft end stops, they're now based on the native workspace. They don't include any offsets. It should not include any offsets. The base min pause is interesting because under dual X carriage, yeah, so again, offset is applying here, and I really don't think it should. So again, I don't know if this, I believe I must have fixed that. I must have fixed this in the other code. So yeah, that's a pretty big miss. And anything else using it? No, nothing else uses offs. So it's not really needed here. There, how's that? All right. Yeah. So the thing is, yes, the offset that I'm dealing with here, so-called workspace offset, this number gets added only when reporting the coordinates. It doesn't actually apply to the real coordinates. There's no need to subtract it now when doing kinematics. It's just there to let us report the current position as being within a particular workspace. Internally, again, everything is operating in a single native workspace, which is how we like it. Okay. Now, I've had this debug leveling feature in Marlin for a long while, and you can use M211 to set it and turn on the debugging for this. And when you do that, it's awesome because you can then see all this information. Home offset equals this, the position shift equals that, and then it'll tell you your soft end stops and stuff. And so when people report bugs, if they don't turn on debug leveling and then turn on this leveling and then do a little log and print it out so that I can see what these values are on their machines, I just never know what's going on. I'm just guessing. As you can see, it took me a while to sleuth out that this offset shouldn't be there. And moreover, let's see if I can update software end stops again. If has position shift keys, I really feel like this is, I almost feel like someone reverted the native workspace change, but I don't see that here. Okay, glad they didn't. Because again, here I've changed the position shift and set axes at home. Yes, that matters because it won't update the software end stops, but it does need to update that workspace offset. Maybe I should just change this to update workspace offset or refresh workspace offset because yes, it does affect the software end stops, but that's not all it does, and its primary job now is mostly to update the workspace offset. So yeah, here again, position shift changes, you have to call it. And here I said home offset. Yeah, so there's so many cases here where it's almost like, maybe I should just have a function. Delta height. Delta height, does that apply to software end stops on the z-axis? It might. Take a look at what delta height does here. There it is. Equals delta height. Right, so that makes sense. So if you do change your delta height, there's an offset there. Okay, so going back, down we go, into the weeds. And yeah, there we are. So I don't think this is needed anymore. Okay, I think I found it. Let's hope Alexi likes it. Let's make a patch, right? EQ. So I'm in my milli branch, and I've made all these changes to my milli branch. So once again, this is how we get a commit and get it out of here and send it off to Marlin. So what I'm going to do is first give a proper title. Remove offsets from soft end stops and nozzle offset on tool change. Tool change, nozzle, tool, I should say tool change. All right. Yeah, okay. That's good enough. I'll know what it means. So now I have a commit ID that I can bring over and just give it to another pull request. So let's get that number. Get, let's see, mf new, pf1, native follow up 77. I feel like it's the 77th one. We'll just call it that. Get cherry pick this, and there we go. And I have a little handy script, mfpr, it's just for me. We'll make a pull request against bugfix1. Hey, how about that? And I'll tell it that it's addressing, hopefully, 8363. Addressing number 8363. Let's hope this fixes it. Wrong extruder offsets. When applying tool change, and I'll find out as I'm trying to explain it, I'll realize it's totally wrong. When applying tool change, make sure that applying tool change, offset to the workspace is no longer required. Workspace shouldn't apply. And applying tool change with a switching nozzle, so offset of the workspace shouldn't apply, shouldn't happen. How about that? Yeah, because I think the idea is that when you have, well, let's see how this works, but I believe that it's possible that when you have dual nozzle that you're allowed to move between here and there. Well, we'll see what happens here. I'm thinking that maybe there does need to be an offset of the soft end stops, possibly, just for the, but it's not, but before I was doing it as a workspace offset, now I can't do it as a workspace offset. I have to basically say, your new position is this. I think that actually worked. Yeah, I think with just the new position, it'll automatically know, okay, I can't move any further to the right than this. And it'll know, I can't move any further to the left than this. I think it'll work. We'll have Alexi figure it out for us. By the way, if anyone has a dual nozzle, switching nozzle, feel free to try this after it's been pushed. Offset relation shouldn't happen. I believe soft end stops will still apply properly after the position for the nozzle. Yeah, I hope this is a fix. We'll call it a bug fix. And now we'll ask Alexi. Hey, Alexi. Try. Can I make an excuse? Let's see. I only looked for the macros when global searching to fix it. And apparently, I need to look for position shift in more places, and I'm going to do that right now, actually. Okay. This, I guess I should say what this means. 8281. Never leave the parentheses open, or when you die, you will be unclosed, I guess. No need closure. Alright, well, let's hope that that's the last of that goodness thing. I'm going to see if anyone else is reporting it, and hopefully some other people are awake and not out partying tonight, and we'll give it a try, although it'll be Sunday morning in some parts of the world soon. Perfect time for you guys to try some stuff out. Don't go watch Tom's live stream. Stay here with mine. Bug fix 2 bug, no surprise. Oh, you know what? I should probably do this for the bug fix 2 branch as well. So what I'll do is mf new bf2. What did I call it? Native follow-up. I should know. It's right there. Okay. Oh, I have a 2 in front of that to make it based on bug fix 2. That's another helpful script that I use constantly. Alright, so now you can see this Marlin main is no longer, see that's that little dot, that means it's not there anymore. Now I need to go find a to change in the new branch, and that needs a function. Right. Oh, what do you know, it's in a file called tool change cpp. Alright, now we need to find position shift. There it is. I don't think we belong here. Goodbye. I think that was almost everything. And update software in stops. Oh, it does still exist. And it is still in Marlin main. Oh wait. Time to close Marlin main. If I end up saving it accidentally, it's silly. Alright, so update software in stops is in something called motion CPP in Marlin 2. And offs, let's just get rid of all the plus offs here. Any more? Nope. Good. Back to this. If offset and has position shift. Hey, look at that, I noticed something interesting. Maybe you can see it too. What do you know? It has home offset and position shift. Well, I guess I don't need that or that. Hey, look at that, huh? That simplifies things. All right, so let's do that. Once again, how did I title that last one? Remove offsets from soft end stops tool change. All right, and let's make a pull request. NFPR2 gives me a pull request against bug fix 2. I'm very lazy, that's why I made these scripts. That's why I spent days working on these scripts that save me minutes every day. Fix, good. Okay, and this corresponds to 8381. Based on 8381. Move unnecessary offsets from soft end stops. Don't shift position on tool change. And shift workspace. How's that? Oh, and typically I will do because it reminds me I did both. I'll do the same here. Yeah, if you go looking at my my commits, my posts, my pull requests, my comments, I'm so it's ridiculous. I don't like to make spelling mistakes. I prefer my English to be readable in other languages. I'm so tempted to just merge it, but I won't. Oh, right, of course, I have to go back and do my tweak to everything anyway. So, back to update stuff for end steps in Marlin main. All right. Oops. All right. Am I right? Am I right? Okay, good. I think actually this is could be wrong. I don't know. I guess yeah. Okay. Workspace offset means it has one or the other. Only when there are both do we have something called workspace offset, which is the sum of the two of them used again to reduce computation. Okay, so I have saved my change. I will do something called NFPP. It creates a commit to patch as the title. Does an interactive rebase. As soon as I'm done, it uploads the change, force pushing it, updating the pull request. And voila, the pull request has been updated. So if it was that quick, everybody would do this, right? But GitHub makes it pretty easy to do this kind of stuff, but they don't provide fancy scripts. You pretty much have to come up with those on your own. Okay, I feel better about these now. The workspace offset doesn't apply to soft end stops. Soft end stops themselves don't need to move because of the way that they work. If you have a dual nozzle system, the offsets are such that you can only move far enough so that the second nozzle hits the end. And then when you move back, the first nozzle can go all the way to the end. So if you can't move it so that the first nozzle goes all the way off the bed, unless, of course, you have space for that. You can do that. It's based on max position, not the size of the bed. But the soft end stops actually do apply within the bed area currently. I don't know if that's a new change, or I think it's kind of new. But the idea being that during a print, the soft end stops actually clamp the current position, or the position that you're trying to print to. And although clamping is stupid, during a print job, obviously, you're not going to get any better results by having your vase end up square at the edges because it's too big for the bed. In fact, your extrusion will be wrong because it's extruding too much. And on a round bed, it gets even worse because it constrains it sort of the edge of to the perimeter of the circle. And yeah, it would be messy. I would love to see someone try it, like put software end stops into the middle of the bed and then do a print like bigger and see what happens. I'm sure it'd be hideous. I mean, it's great when you're just trying to move the machine around and doing stuff with G1 and with your host, but yeah, during print, it makes little to no sense to ever have clamping. It would make more sense to simply like catch it and pause it and just tell you, hey, you're about to go off the bed. Even better, I guess, would be if SD cards were super fast and we could pre-scan all the G code and see that all the code is good before running it. That would be pretty nifty. Of course, we have no guarantee that hosts will send us all the G code ahead of the print job. We only get the print G code as it comes from hosts. So yeah, there's issues there. I mean, Marlin is meant to be dumb and just obey commands, whatever it's given, as best it can. And you know, there are safety features, of course, but some of them I don't want to make it too smart. Of course, with the 32-bit boards coming up now, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to make things super smart. So we have to try and pull back our temptation to do every possible thing. But I do like the multiple graphics screen types. But I do like the idea of you know, having things like you know, filtered B-spline acceleration and stuff like that. If that can be done in real time, even on an 8-bit, that would be great. Right now, it seems unlikely it'll ever be available on AVR, just because the way that it currently works is you have to pre-process the G code through a script and then produce new G code. And I've just done the same thing for Scala for the MakerOn project. And yeah, same way. Well, let's just say we all got together and did a big thing with that script. And I made it into like a plugin for Sublime Text and make it quicker to convert G code and stuff. But ultimately, yeah, it would be nice if everything on the internals could, say, pre-process a little bit ahead of time. But I mean, that's ultimately what the planner does, is it pre-processes and does kinematics and everything. But well, that is the thing. If you want to, I may add a command G6 to Marlin, which G6 is currently something I threw into the MakerOn version of Marlin, and all it does is let you move the steppers directly to some millimeter position or some angle position for Scala. And then automatically make sure that it knows what the actual Cartesian position is, so that it looks like a normal move at the high level, but at the low level you're able to like do direct moves at the steppers. The advantage being that when you go to convert your G code to a new version, you don't have to send a bunch of say G0s. You could use G6, which is direct move of the steppers, and on a delta you would have ABC. Would be maybe the axes, and you could just have direct moves to ABC. All the square roots and square calculations that it does in order to do delta kinematics would be offloaded to that preprocessor script. The only thing that it would add overhead to is the actual G code parser, which would be parsing every, I don't know how long the segments are in a delta, but say half a millimeter maybe. So it'd be processing all these half-millimeter segments, and as we know, the planner can quickly fill up and bog down under that load, and it has issues with it ends up having issues with the display updates if you're using a graphical display, especially. The graphical display would get in the way. We've created a feature that throttles the graphical display back whenever it notices that the planner is starting to get full, to prevent it from stuttering. But the obvious disadvantage there is that the display becomes unresponsive. So if you had G-code that was like delta G-code with half-millimeter moves in it, filling up the planner constantly, you'd have a very unresponsive graphical display. So again, it's a sort of a trade-off. Do we offload the computation and put more load on the planner and on the G-code side? Of course, with the 32-bit boards, again, you don't have to worry so much about these things. But there's also possibilities to do like maybe intermediate stuff. Like you could maybe do a pre-calculation in the delta and just include that number, some magic numbers, in the G-code itself. And so it can be pre-calculated a few things. But I don't know. There's different ways to work it out. We tried using the fast square root routines from Quake, but it turns out they're not faster. They're very cool, but they're not faster on these processors. They might be faster under certain circumstances, but in general, the float routines for square and square root stuff are adequate enough on AVR for our needs. All right, so anyway, I'm hoping that Alexei will get back to me on this. Meanwhile, let's take a look and see what other bugs are going on, shall we? Here's an interesting one. Compile error with multiple graphic screen types. Really? Let's take a look. I don't think you can have multiple screen types. Hey, somebody's putting in some good stuff. Sterile, brand new Marlin, November 11. Used in older pins files. If Viki is enabled, I can't really support modified pins files too much. Or if maker panel, or if mini Viki. Compiler is, there's no such thing as dog LCD SCK. So what that means is that the dog LCD SCK pin doesn't get defined. So it sticks it literally into this, tries to mangle a name together with a number, and instead of getting DIO 72 R port or whatever it would be, it sticks the name in that. So I'll just make a note of that. The proximal cause, yeah, I love using the word proximal. The proximal cause of the issue is that isn't being defined. Check your pins and see if there's an obvious value to use. Use other pins files for reference if needed. So maybe this is what do you call this? Configuration? Maybe? Support? Maybe, is it a boards? Hardware boards? A bit of that. I like to tag and label these things. It kind of reminds me when I look at the issues that I've been there. No one else uses the tags, but I like them. I figure someday someone will go searching for certain tags, and it'll be historically important that there are this many bug reports versus that many feature requests. Maybe someday. I'm also saving all my Mac Addict CDs because someday they'll be valuable. So let's see. Whenever I send M3S0 G-code, the laser is not set to 0. M3 should only influence the laser power. I think M30 is specified to turn off the laser. Actual behavior. The code switches the laser enable pin state but does not change the PWM pin. Oh. Thinks it should only influence the laser power. Interesting one. I do have some lasers to play with, but not on these machines. I have it on the maker arm. And is it attached right now? I think it might be. Well, I'm not at liberty to show you the prototype right now, or I would start playing with it. But I will make a note of this, that I think we'd call it a potential bug. What do you say? I think that might be right. You know, I think the intention was that the laser should be disabled by M3 imitating what M5 does. But I see your point. Maybe it should do both. Oh, what are you saying that he doesn't have an enable pin? Oh, yeah. I'll go back to it. In the case of missing enable pin, what do you say to that? In the case of a missing enable pin, no enable pin. I agree. It should set the PWM to 0. Sounds like a bug. Alright, well, for all of you using lasers, I'll fix it. What do you say? Let's see, G-code M3 and 4. I don't even remember, it's M3 and M4 both. Alright, let's take a look. Well, you know, I didn't write this code. This is the spindle laser code. I did write some laser code, and it's really cool. I came up with a function that allows you to set the PWM to timer 5 to anything, any time, any amount of time, and any duty cycle. And it was fun to write. It was a good exercise. I wanted to understand timers and PWM better, and just have a function that I would never have to think about pins again, or timer registers or all of that. I'm sure I will, but yeah. So anyway, if there's a PWM pin M3 blah blah blah, if there's an OCR valve mode, else. Yeah, since I didn't write this, it might annoy me. So hold on. I get that way a little bit sometimes. Let's see. I will quickly take a peek at the. I'll quickly take a peek at the live stream and see what's going on with y'all. Yes. Let's open a new window. Oh. In the browser. History. Live dashboard. You don't need to see that. Stream health. It says that I'm still streaming. Sort of live. It says I'm live. It says my stream health is orange. Hey, good deal. Okay. Hey, look, a chat. Now I will actually read your chat now. Sorry, I haven't been. Noob here. Hello, Marlin. Be right back. Aloha. Comments. They are the key to success, I suppose. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing either. Don't worry. I speak C++. up to a point, I did the first C++ I ever did was for my program FretPet on the Mac, an application. When you could still write Mac apps in C++ under the Carbon framework. And that was lovely. I enjoyed working with C++. Oh, you know what else I did actually? Was, there was a period of time when I was trying to learn OpenGL. If you wanted to do graphics, you had to know your OpenGL. Oh, clearly the stream is suffering from this. What I'm going to do is like maybe, I wonder if I can pause the stream preview. Oh, I can. Good, that'll help. Because I don't need that. I don't need that kind of processing. Down to 31%. Anyway, so I decided, hey, I'll just write my own game engine, and I got pretty far. But as soon as I got to the part where you have to check collisions against thousands of things against thousands of other things, that was when I kind of started to glaze over and lost interest. But that little bit of experience allowed me to go on and do like a Wacom tablet driver in C++, because the Wacom had abandoned their support for serial tablets. So I made that, and then I did some other things, my music app FretPet. But I expected when I started doing Marlin that I'd be working with embedded C++, which would be like this small subset where you're not allowed to do certain things, or at least discouraged from doing certain things. And for example, classes where you have virtual methods, meaning that the subclasses can override them, but then call back to the parent one, and it would, check at runtime what your actual object was, and you could do all these extra facilities that allow that were sort of verboten in embedded C++. And so I was expecting, oh, this will be easy. I'll just be using C essentially, but with a few C++ semantic extras. And no, it turns out on the Arduino you can go to town and use full C++ 11, go completely nuts with it, and make it run as slow or fast as you want. On a certain level, I think that's great, because as far as Marlin goes, the high-level code, like at a certain level, like the LCD code, for example, would probably benefit from being implemented as as like a virtual, like, classes and subclasses. Just because right now it's almost voodoo the way it works. It makes it easier to actually add menu items, because you just type out menu item. This is the type of menu item I want. And yeah, I want it to alter this bool, and then when you press the button, I want it to call this function. And all that can be specified in a single line. And under the hood, I'm sure that the compiler is probably taking all the stuff that's inside that macro and getting expanded and makes it smarter. I'm hoping that it does, because the internals of each of those things is like, it's running little loops inside of those. Each screen handler runs a loop, and as it runs the loop for each line, I think it only runs it for, like, maybe if you have 4 lines on the screen or something. It'll run it from, like, what's the first line down to the 4th line, and it'll run the draw code, and then it'll run the processing code if you press the button. And then if you want, you can add, like, extra processing that happens every time that the screen handler gets called. And so it's amazing how much you can accomplish in a single line because of the current system. And yet I know that, I get this feeling like that there could be something more elegant there. And yet, I don't blame people for not wanting to get near it. I'm scared to touch it, but I think it would be interesting to say maybe try to write something new from the ground up and then bring it into Marlin. Other things that are along those same lines that are kind of cool to do in C++ universe are, it can be fun to have little messaging systems built into a program where you can just send out a message and say, hey, someone press this button. And then anything that wants to get that message can earlier in the program say, register for that message and say, I want to be told whenever this button's pressed. And so the cool thing about that is that you don't have to have some code that knows all about the LCD and the button and when it gets pressed, that it might need to debounce and all these other things. You just have one call that says, hey, the button is pressed, in the LCD, and then you have all your functions somewhere else in the program that don't know anything about the LCD. All they know is that somebody pressed a button, and that can make things much nicer. As it is now, there's a lot of stuff in Marlin which is very tightly integrated, and I can understand again why that has to be, since you're dealing with very slow processors. 16 megahertz is it sounds like a lot. 16 million things per second is nothing to sneeze at, but the Amiga 3000 was a 20 megahertz or maybe even 24 megahertz machine, and that came out in the mid-80s, early 90s, I guess. So, it's now 20-some odd years later. I understand why we're using AVR processors, and they are wonderful, but I almost feel like, well, maybe we should be using 6502 processors and running our Ataris, turning them into 3D printers. Don't get any ideas. It's not a good idea. So let's see. The intention was okay. So onward. Next bug. I kind of don't want to look at that laser crud. I have it here. Here it is. It's ugly. It's hideous. I do see what's going on. It's like if you have a PWM. Here it's turning the enable. Low, playing for power up. Here it's doing that. Rotation, yeah, we're not a spindle, so we don't care about that. And it's PWM, yeah, okay, it's like, I kind of see what's going on here. It should be, right here is where it should be doing the trick. It should be setting, if power is 0, it should not just set the laser enable pin, but it should also set the PWM to 0. Yeah, clearly. So, what's going on with that? How does it set the... Oh, I see. It's using OCR valve. Yeah, it's getting fancy. In 16 OCR values, that and that times 1 divided by... You might be wondering about stuff like this in C++, this little 1 divided by thing. Now, the precompiler actually makes that the reciprocal, and so there's not really any division happening. What ends up happening is multiplication, which is faster, and that's why it does it that way. See, you already know more C++ as a result of watching this video. Okay, so what's going on? If it's less than the minimum speed, we set it to this. If it's greater than the max speed, we set it to that. I feel like OCR val should be allowed to be set to 0. I see here we're doing that, so I'm feeling like maybe I should just do this. Okay. What do you say? Does that look good? Sure. 8? I'm going to keep the comment. Turn spindle off and turn the PWM off. Would that be good enough? Let's ask our bug reporter if he thinks that's good. And then move on. Right. Oops, did I make a mistake? See a little X? See a little X? Yep, I did. Remove offsets from soft end stops to a change. I'm sure it's just some stupid typo. Yes, I did let GitHub find that bug. I sometimes do that. Waiting for Arduino to build things all day long. When I could be doing other things. Let's see. Alright, so indication 0. Yeah, I'll throw in the extra comment. How about if it turns off both M3 0? Since any future M3 will just turn it back on. And I don't know if it's good for lasers to have their power enabled with greater than 0. That was probably pretty bad. So okay, here we go. So I'll tell you what, I'll actually submit that. Let's go do it. Alright, which branch am I in? Okay, let's... Well, obviously that's a simple thing to fix. So I'll just make a new branch and submit it as a fix. Well, you know what? I could just do it direct. Yeah, I'll do it direct really quick. So back to the terminal. If new PF1 laser off patch. Yeah, I know. I gotta stash my changes. Right. Undo. Save. Okay. Thank you. Reload. Hey, look at that. I left me on the same line and everything. Almost. Alright. Okay, let's call this turn off laser power and PWM goes to 0. Just seems prudent. 8. And actually, oh, I just made it from a brand new branch, so I should be able to say, just for sure, I'll just do a quick update. Okay, good. Look at that, it gives me the lineup I need to use and everything. Voila. And let's do the same for 2. Laser off patch. Good. And search for rights to spindle laser enable pin. I think this is in a different file in Marlin 2. Sure enough, it's in a file called M3 through M5. Alright, let's see our val mode. Analog right, spindle laser power. To the PWM pin. OCR val mode. I almost feel like here it should say if it's 0, it should turn off here too. But we'll do this in we'll be conservative to start with. Okay. And once again, ready to go. How's my screen health? Looking good. Alright. Disable laser power and PWM goes here. Yeah. Let's make sure the power isn't something we can invert. Oh, look, it is. See? You caught me making a bug. Let's fix that. Let's see. Oh, wait, no. PWM pin 0. Oh, no, that's right. 0. 0 is good. That's what we want. Never mind. There is no... Ah, there is a PWM invert. Look at that. All right. thing to remember. All right, so once again, let's see. This I have actually have something for. Do mfqp, quick patch. Oops, it's not going to like me. I'll let Control C that one. Git checkout, back to our branch. These are supposed to save me time, but you have to type it correctly. mfqp2. Yes, you can interrupt Git, and usually it doesn't break anything. Okay, it's going to try to upload it, of course it can't. And again, there we go. That's fixed. If I do a push without -f, all it does is push the new commit. So no harm done if someone else has made a change in the last 3 seconds that I didn't know about. With the -f, it may not push. It might lose any commits that happen in the interim. So I always cross my fingers and hope that nobody's made a commit in the last 3 seconds. But there's only 2 of us really making commits directly, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Okay. And yeah, merging a pull request does have the same effect. Where were I? Good to see you too, Practical Printing. I hope to see some of your practical print action soon as well. Let's see, what am I going to do? Oh, right. Let's go back to our BF1 patch and repatch that for a second here. Right. Yes, there we go. Now mfqp will work. Oh, look at here. Almost forgot. Git rebase -I head tilde 2? Yeah, that's right. Shows me the last 2 commits, lets me interactively mess with them. Okay, so I just merged that with the previous commit. And so, if I do that push upstream again, this time I would have to say F because I'm replacing, and there it goes. Okay. No one will ever know how badly I screwed up. Okay. Done. So I'll make a note here that I applied that motion to the bug fix patch. It makes sense. Oh, I could do this all day. Wait, I do. Okay, so that's those. Next, feature request. We can ignore those. They're not bug reports. ld.exe region text overflowed by 32530. That means you tried to build too much stuff, or you're talking to the wrong people. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, we can close that one. And I will mark it as configuration related, so you remember. Some of the more fun labels we have are dope and let's see, Thinkyhead broke it. Just in case. I might break something someday. Let's see. Okay, MKS base with EEPROM crashes. Crashes. Oh my God. Well, you know, I find that sad, but I don't have an MKS base to play with. And apparently it's UBL related. One thing UBL does that's unique, one of the many things it does that's unique, is that it has it goes to the uses the last part of the EEPROM liberally for its own purposes, and so it may be possible that some. The thing that happens is each time you add new features, of course, you pretty much need to reset your EEPROM, so you lose your old settings. But that's not unusual. But with UBL, as long as there's enough space for, and nothing's going to crash into the UBL stuff, then your old settings will survive many flashes and many updates to the EEPROM, because it kind of stands alone. So I'm going to call this I don't know, is it a potential bug? I guess I'm going to call it a potential bug. Needs something, needs. We have a needs book, I guess we'll call it. But moving on. Yeah, I want to definitely get the ones that matter for 117, which I want to get out this weekend. U8G HAL issues on at Mega 2560. Okay, HAL, that refers to 2.0. I'm not looking too closely at the 2.0 HAL myself right now, because it's changing pretty frequently, and I have all this high-level stuff to kind of deal with, but I will mark it 32-bit. And did break an I2C display. Okay, so Bob knows what to do. Bob knows what to do. Actually, Bob Kuhn lives pretty close to here in Austin. We haven't met up yet, although I invited him to go to the ATX Hackerspace one time. Hopefully we'll hang out one of these days. Meanwhile, Roxy, is in closer to Houston, I think. But yeah, we're all in the same general time zone, so we have no excuses not to hang out with each other, except that, we're all too cool. We're too cool to hang out with each other. Let's see, WS2812 versus NeoPixel. Versus NeoPixel? An all-out bloodfest? Thank you for submitting your feedback. Okay. Looks like that was his comment. Okay. That's a template. They have a template for reporting bugs, and you're supposed to fill it in. But for some reason, people want to make things more difficult for us and ignore the template we provided and make us guess. Fred. What's up with that, Fred? And LEDs recognize looks like I can close it. That's good, because I'm not sure I want to deal with Fred after that. M48 changes nothing, but says offset's applied. How about that? What does it mean? So that's interesting. I mean, M206 does work fine, but M428 doesn't. Oh, so it should display an error, but it doesn't. That's a bug. Call that a verified bug. What do you say? Needs patch. All right. Well, Oh, pointing out which line and everything. See, this is what I like. Someone's telling me where the problem is. If nothing else, like if you can point to the line, I'm pretty sure it's here. You can actually search for, like, the command that's having issues, M428, and you can look at it and go, well, the logic seems sound. I mean, it's almost English, right? See, if the axis is homed on the particular axis it's looping on right now, let's see, 9554, here's the issue, he says. Then do all this stuff, set the home offset. Oh, I see what you're saying. So, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why it's doing it this way, except I wrote it a long time ago. This is old code. Set home offset by this diff. I'll take a look. I'll take a look at this some more. There was a bug earlier that I fixed in 1.1, and I can check and see if it was fixed in 2. So let's take a quick look at that. If I find constrain, by itself, I know that's a button. Let's see. Constrain, 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 constrain. T equals constrain equals map constrain, return constrain, constrain, return constrain. Ah, that's okay. That's constrain. Equals constrain, xplot constrain. Okay, that looks like all the constraints are happy. I had a bad constraint before, but I think that's fixed up. Let's take a look at 2.0 branch and see if that same thing applies. If I've just misused constrain once, I probably misused it a million times, right? Return constrain, constrain, return constrain, return constrain, 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 return, constrain, offs. Ah, that's the one. That's where it's supposed to be. And you can see here I do it this way. And you say constrain this thing by this and this. It's okay to do it that way. The compiler will be smart enough to only call this once, even though the constrain macro does this fancy thing where it says, if this is less than this, then do this. Otherwise, if it's greater than this, do this. And it takes this thing and repeats it a couple times. And fortunately, this thing, this function, the way the compiler works is it'll only call a function more than once if there's something in between that gets changed that it thinks could affect, because say you change some variable that's available, that's in another file, maybe even. The compiler doesn't know whether your function that you're calling relies on the variable that you've changed. So it just assumes that it better call it again because it might have affected what can come out of that function. So if you call a function and all you do is, you're calling it to do something or get a value from it, and then you're like comparing that value and then setting something else based on it, it'll only need to call it once to get the value. It's only if you, again, this is a local to this offs number here. And again, I could probably, one tweak I could do here is to stick constant in front of it. It's just a promise to the compiler that after this I won't change it. But down here it's not going to be offs equals something new. And for the most part the compiler already can tell that it's not being changed. But this is just a guarantee if someone goes to change it that the compiler will throw an error. And they'll know that, oh, well, maybe there's some behavior that I shouldn't be messing with here. Anyway, for now, I will just simply, let's see, am I using later off patch? Well, in that case, just do a little, what do I call this? Coding standard patch on M290. And we won't use the F, we'll just use the push-ups here. What? Oh, thank you for not liking that. Hey, here we go. See, isn't Git nice? It prevents you from doing really dumb things. So let's get our, oops, Evernote? No, I don't need to do right now, Evernote. Thanks for telling me that that's one of your shortcuts, though. Okay, back keys. Right. No. Boom. Let's just do this. Make it the same as the other one. Just because. You can see right now, because we have two branches going, yes, there's a lot of extra work I have to do to make sure there's parity between the two of them. It's educational, and I feel honored in the same way that I feel honored when someone says, hey, if you work for us, it'll give you great exposure, but we won't pay you. So here we go. Yes. Coding standard patch 0. Boop. And what was that thing I was going to do before? Right. Push it upstream. There you go. So I can actually continue to work with these branches as if I'm working with the actual main branches. As long as I'm doing things that are fairly timid and simple, like these little changes that I'm making now, I won't necessarily need to do a pull request. And but it's only when you do major changes or things that really bear discussion that it makes sense to do a pull request. And yeah, I mean, I have full and complete rights to make sweeping changes all over the place, but it's just more courteous to get feedback and not scare everyone with scary changes. And also, sometimes I'm not so sure if what I'm doing is exactly right anyway. So let's see. Multiple compiler with multiple graphic screen types possible. Got a little feedback. This is nice. Someone closed the previous tab. What's our feedback? See, this is the time when everyone's awake. Most of the world. I'm trying not to read any tone in this. Let's see. So from the get-go, a brand new only thing modified is the enabling of one of those screens. Well, no, you pulled an old PIMS file from somewhere in the distant past. Let's see. Well, it did give me a paste bin. It's probably the error, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Doesn't help me. I know it's not defined. It's all we can tell from this. I have to look at your PIMS file. Alright. When an old PIMS file... isn't it nice? The comments just pop up on GitHub. Right in your face. Real time. Real time! Right just now. Alright, when an old PIMS file is used, the same error rears its head. Well, let me see here. What's enabled? Wiki 2. Maker panel. And what's the board? An Extrude. Style brand new Marlin. Modified PIMS. I don't know what this modified with PIMS file. Okay, Wiki 2 or Maker panel or maybe Wiki 2 is commented by. Well, again, let's see. Wiki2 enabled. Wiki2. Okay, so this is compiling with Wiki2, and the Extrude, or just any script. I'll try compiling now and see what happens. What do you say? Okay, so going back to vanilla Marlin, which is I think what I have now. I'm using the most vanilla latest Marlin. Yeah, okay, so I can pretty much just take. Hey, Danska6, thank you for subscribing. Good to see you. Un momento. I was about to, if you're just joining me, I am debugging the heck out of this thing tonight. So far I haven't done any running on the machine yet, but the important thing right now is to get all the most obvious and glaring glitches gone so that we can get 117 out, because there's a few bugs that are definitely fixed already. And it would have been nice to put it out before the native workspace change, but I don't know, it seemed like it would be such a simple thing. Alright, so, so I need to enable the Wiki display, so let's do that. Wiki2. Wiki. Oh. Hey, welcome, Duo. Are you named for the Arduino Duo? I'm surprised if someone has actually got the name Duo, because I mean, you would think that Amazon or somebody would have grabbed that up quick. Congratulations. Ooh, Wiki2. Let's see what happens when we build this sucker with just Wiki2 and its ramps by default. Hope I don't have to reopen Arduino. And this is, by the way, I'm building Marlin 1, not Marlin 2. I don't normally drink lager or whatever this is while coding, but I had too much coffee earlier. This is my remedy for too much coffee. And too many people. I'm new in Austin, and I've been looking, trying with all my might to find like a really awesome vegan place to get food. And I went to try out a place today, and I won't tell you who they were. And their tofu scramble was terrible. And they were talking like I really didn't like it at all. So I don't know if I'll be going back there. But if anyone knows of any good spots in Austin for, well, I'll tell you what, the Thai food here is wonderful, as everywhere, pretty much. I can't go wrong with Thai. So I'm going to have to stick with that. Oh my god, look at this. Look at this hideousness. By the way, if there's any glitches with the stream, it's because of this thing. It's all this compiling. What the heck is going on there? Am I really building Marlin 1? I better check. I don't remember it taking this long. Oh, man. I don't know, it's being really bizarre. Maybe it's because of the Wiki2. You know, it probably is, because it brings in UHG. Build. Look at that thing. Have you ever seen so many lines? I don't think I've ever seen Okay, this is ridiculous. I think clearly it's building stuff from Marlin 2 that yeah, I think that's clearly an issue. And look at me, open recent memory, no stuff, okay, fine. Fortunately I have Marlin over here. Yeah. Arduino sometimes gets confused, especially if you're using, as I am, like 2 different versions of Marlin, but in the same directory. All right. Hello. Hello, Arduino. Build for me, will you? Keep it simple. Please? I don't know, maybe this is just par for the course. It's being rather verbose. I can't say as I've built for the Vicky 2 a lot, but I don't know why they'd do anything special about it. Still, you can see the progress bar here is it thinks it's got thousands of things to compile, so I guess I'll just let it. Since it's, as you can see, it's building something in, well, no, I can't tell what it's building in this. The only part of the command line I can see is the beginning. And one of the stupid things, yes, stupid Arduino, stupid, that Arduino does is print out, and a lot of these tools do, is like print out the full paths to things. You don't have to do that. Inside of shells, you can set, like, some very short name thing to equal some very long thing. And then you can just refer to that short name thing with a $sign in front of it. And when you do that, actually there's been an issue of late where with Marlin 2, now that it has zillions of files, more than Marlin 1, the compiler is starting to run out of, I don't know if it's the compiler, I guess it might be. It's finding the command lines are too long, especially the linker, because it wants to link together some, 100 things. And it puts the full path to those things on the front of all those things. Yeah. Strange stuff. A lot of strange stuff. So normally we always get a little bit of complaint about U8G. It has issues. I do believe that here in Arduino, there's an option to preserve stuff you've built before. Yeah, aggressively cache compiled core, which I assume means even libraries and stuff, it'll aggressively cache them. But maybe the cache got cleared at some point. The other thing is, of course, because I'm running OBS right now, this is taking far longer than it normally would. I shouldn't even be compiling on this machine, but it's the only one I have available at the moment. Okay, so this is taking forever. It's almost done now. It promises to be almost done. The command line, I should say, the progress bar is a promise. Well, while we're waiting for this, let's take a look and see if there are any other hideous bugs awaiting on. Oh, look, more answers. Any board. In fact, many. I don't know when doglcd.scp started messing. So ready? You said it's Marlin 111. I don't know. So far, because of my compiler running so slowly, I'm unable to comment. Yes, all those red things are normal. Because UHE has bugs. Not bugs, but things like unused. It has things that are warnable. It doesn't suppress its warnings. And so people might think well, it linked, it's running, it's compiled, it's linked. So that's my first test. And look, it even compiled. Okay, it's done. I hope the next time I compile it doesn't take anything like that long. You can see why I don't like to do compiling. Okay, so, dude, Wookie. It now compiles when line 294 is commented out. Really? Let's take a look. Hey bud, using the current Marlin, I was able to compile with just enabling the repeat 2. And otherwise, everything default. I should say which branch. Bug fix, then someone else. The other compile doesn't really give it to you, otherwise everything at the default. Right, so that should be fine, right? Here we go. He says it's line 294, and that is correct. It is line 294 in there. Well, it is kind of important. I mean, it's there. I'm not. I don't myself have an MKS 12864 LED, but we'll just say without error. Just name the computer organizing as a default. Can you post your modifications? See your modifications. All right. See, this is sometimes I can actually work live, back and forth with someone. This doesn't often happen, but usually the responses are within a day, and usually fix things within 2 days if they're not too serious or weird. Neopixel loop startup test. Okay, what's that all about? Darn it, Fred. You were not saying anything. Start loop. Thank you, Tenu. See, Tenu stepped up. Try bug fix 11x. Yes, exactly. Please. As mentioned, I don't know if I put that in the issue template, but I should. Hey, test first. Let's see what the issue template says. I think N is this special hotkey for making a new issue, but put it on that. New issue. There we go. Please do this, blah, blah, blah. Bug report tips. I didn't put it in a bug report tip. Boy, I really should. Okay, well, remind me next time to do that. I really don't feel like I'm messing with it right now. If I start writing into the template, I know I'm going to start putting all kinds of advice in there. Make sure you're sober when you report bugs. Let's see. As mentioned by 10, it's vitally important that you test against the latest bug fix 1.1x before reporting an issue, since it's very likely that we fixed it already. Very likely? Always possible. Alright. So we'll call this a, potential bug needs testing feedback. Boop. Oh, there we go. It's no use reporting bugs, reporting issues in release versions. Without first checking to see if we already fixed it. Because we don't patch release versions. We make new releases, right? What's going on with this? Oh no! My browser is exploding! I blame you, YouTube. Oh my god. You ever seen that happen? We fixed it because we don't patch releases, right? We don't patch releases. We do not. We patch up our bug fix. Patch up bug fix. And then later it becomes the next piece. Bye-bye, Wiki. It's a waste of my time. I don't use bug fix because it's unstable. I'm making fun of you, Wiki. I'm sorry. But seriously, I mean, the word unstable is one of those pet peeves I have, because people say it's unstable, meaning it crashes or it has bugs. But that's not what unstable means in the world of version control and bug patching and stuff. What unstable means, like, there may be bugs up the butt in Marlin 1.1.6, but it's a stable branch because we're init changing it. So it's stable. Bug fix, yes. Bug fix is unstable, and in both senses, it may have bugs and also be unstable. But yeah, so when people say it's unstable, meaning that it may have bugs, it always gets me along. Do you mean it's changing? Or, yes, I know. Hey, there's no guarantee that any release is quote-unquote stable in the sense of having no bugs. If you look hard enough, you'll find bugs. Although we're shaking them out all the time, and generally by working towards simplifying stuff. But there are some new things that are coming up, like here's someone who wants us to try junction deviation instead of jerk settings, and I thought that was a really cool idea. But I'm not sure if we, I feel like there was something about junction deviation already in Marlin. And I think that jerk and junction deviation are sort of similar. Semantically, maybe they're different. I don't know. Maybe they're different for real. But anyway, let me get back to the chat window here. You know what I'm going to do is close the live dashboard for a sec, because it's causing me grief in my other browser window. And then I'm going to open it up in Safari, because Safari has recently been updated and is supposed to be really good. So let's see. We'll get that link first. Hello. History. Right, live dashboard. That's, oh, who knew? It's YouTube/live dashboard. Okay. And there we go. If I'm logged in, it'll like me. Offline. Oh, I shouldn't be consequent. I have my personal one, and then I have one for my software. I'm using my software one today. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So let's close that up. Ritual, yes. I have to say it's fun. I mean, I don't like to give people grief if they're saying stuff that's silly or whatever, or if they're just off base. But I try to gently guide people in the right direction, especially when it comes to how to report bugs or that how to test things or give us information that helps to track it down. The most common thing is when people just try the release version and then report a bug in it, and it's already been fixed like weeks ago. We get that a lot, but it's to be expected. I don't think everyone should be running the latest nightly build on their printers. I mean, you never know what might occur. So I must bow to the brave souls who actually do. But always stay very close to your power switch and be ready to just pull the lever, because you never know what kind of bugs there may be. Not a issue, but in question. No, your bad English is great. You do not add G29 when doing manual mesh level. That's for sure. You should use M420S1 in your startup G code. In case you were wondering, you should always use M420S1 because everybody needs to have a little M20 before they print. You should use M420S1 in your startup G code, as this will make sure your saved leveling mesh is used for the print. We got an interesting request for binary G code, which, if you don't know, there's a proposal on the RepRap wiki. It's been hanging around for a long time. Bob Cousins is the primary author of that, about making a binary, more concise G code. The idea is interesting. Sometimes it's a trade-off between It's surprising though how many with something like if you just need x0, that takes 2 bytes to specify x0. Whereas if you were to compress it into some form where it's looking for a float number that you compact into 4 bytes guaranteed, then every float number will be 4 bytes. And so if you say x0, y0 in regular G code, it's nice and small, but that'll be 8 bytes, at least 6 bytes longer in a binary version of G code. And so it comes down to a question of how many decimal places do you need in your millimeters. I think that most G code puts way too many decimal places into their, but I guess it's to be safe. Probably 3 or 4 decimal places is more than enough. 1/1000th of a millimeter is more than enough for most of you. and the extra decimal places are kind of in a way useless. They'll get rounded up or down, at somewhat at random, but that's the nature of floats. But if you really want to make a compact G code, one great way to do it is just make sure not to use too many decimal places. Run a little preprocessor that squishes it down and gets rid of all your extra decimal places. And for whole numbers, gets rid of the decimal point altogether. And just, there's a few ways you can preprocess G code to get it squished down. And it'll probably even be more efficient again, because the routines that turn, text into float numbers, or decimal numbers, will only have to look at 4 or 5 digits instead of whatever, 8 or 12 or however many you send. Those 8 or 12 digits are just overkill. I think some hosts might have known this. I'm not sure if what's the one that everyone likes, Simplify 3D. That one I think might have that optimization in it. And yeah, any Repetier, go ahead, go for it. Cura, please, if you don't mind. Slicer, Preprocessing. As long as Preprocessing is doing all kinds of fancy things with optimizations, they should try that one too. Okay, so let me see. I screwed up with my BF2 native follow-up branch. Let's fix that, shall we? Okay. Oops. So there's my bug. Let's take a look at the changes I made. And it will be obvious, right? Alright, that goes away. Workspace offset equals offset. It would help, I guess, if I just check and make sure I know what the error actually is. This is one of the cool parts about GitHub, is they have this Travis continuous integration. And so we have a script as part of the Marlin package that goes through several different configurations and tries them all. And if there's an error, like offs plus, yeah, obvious bug. Okay. Almost too obvious. All right, so workspace, offs plus, yeah. Derp. There we go, no more derp. Quick patch that thing. Trust me, this would take a lot longer without these scripts. And you would be so much more bored. Okay, so that should probably take care of that. We'll just wait and see. As you can see, the web page updates with the new and wonderful change. The little orange dot means it's checking it right now. And when it's done, it'll come back with either a happy green check mark or a hideous red X. Okay. Right. Still waiting for Alexi to look at that one. We'll just put you over here, Alexi. Good days. Come back later. Alexi, I presume, is in the Russian zone, maybe the Ukraine. So I don't know what time it is there. With some 13 time zones in that general area. So let's see. M928, how to use. Okay, now someone asked how to use this, but what they were really saying is it doesn't work. So there might be a bug in M928 that I could fix, which I know you're all using all the time. But what it does is it makes a log of whatever commands you send to your printer onto your SD card. Ah, see, but why mine wasn't logged? Yeah, okay. So this is something I can actually test. So let's do that. Upload the latest code to my printer. Oh, you know what? It's already on my printer. So, not the latest, but certainly the latest M928. Okay. I don't have any fancy debugging turned on, but I will try this. M928 hello.txt. G28. Oops. Would help if I power my motors. Okay, good. Homing. Hold on a minute. See? Hello. Z. I recently rewired this machine, so I have a feeling my X-min is triggered, my Y-min is open. Ah, there we go, it's triggered. Alright, and what about Z-min? There was a wire that got in between my carriage and my pen stop, so maybe that was... Oh, okay, seems to be working now. I'll have to just tape that wire up. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Error writing to file. Hey, see there. There it is. Okay, good. Okay, sorry, I have a very slow M5 threaded rod Z-axis, as is customary on your old Prusa i3s. Ajax rods would be very nice. Or, anything with a bigger pitch would be nice. Okay, so as you can see, it's error writing to file. Error writing to file. Okay, this makes sense. One thing is, of course, SD cards have a little SD like read-write slot on them. So maybe that's his issue? I know it's probably my issue. So what I'll do is, yeah, I have issues, I'm sorry. Be right back. Oh, got it. Yeah. I can't really check with my controller because I have the controller I got, my particular LCD. It's a normal character display, but it was wired with the SD writable pin connected where the SD detect pin should be, and so you have to have it in write lock, or else it thinks the card isn't there. And I actually wrote a patch for it, but I'm not going to apply it now. So I think what I'm going to do is just tell him so. But, and see if I haven't tried that. Try switching the position of the little read write tab on the SD card and see if it still can't write. I mean, it's obvious, but you can say you tried it already. And that should put them that should put them off for a day. Okay. Right. Back to Wookie. You got your compiler with your screens. All right, Wookie. What's going on? Bug fix compiles with it. Yeah, I don't know. You can check what's different. I have some tools for that. Reporting bugs in a release is fruitful. Yeah, I'm going to make a change log. It's called the commit log. I'll just give them a snarky link to the commit log. I know, it shouldn't be snarky. Wookie, if you're watching this, I apologize. I'm not being snarky. I just think that it's good to be the king. There we go. No, I just think that it's nice to have, you can, first off, there's no way that we can maintain a change log on our daily bug patches. Can fast, furious, haphazardly, and don't always survive till the release. But if you want to compare the current bug fix to any previous release, GitHub provides excellent tools for the job. You can search on the commits or the pull requests using a date range or two version tags, branch names, etc. I actually have a link for some of those. You can see it here. If you go to like the Marlin, the main Marlin page, and you go to like releases. Boop. I've been keeping these links in the releases down here at the bottom. See, list of commits since 1.1.5 or PRs since 1.1.5 for details. So I can go here, for example, okay? And if I want to find, like, here's a date up here, 2017-08-28, you know, so here, for example, this compares 1.1.4 to 1.1.5. There we go. For example, here's a link to compare was it 1.1.4? I don't even remember. Yeah, 1.1.5 to 1.1.6 it is. 5 to 1.6. Here, list all pull requests, merged pull requests, very important. Some get thrown away without getting merged. Between 1.1.5 and 1.1.6. Boom. All right then. And what's he got off Okay, checked every mention in the bug fix. It's identical. It makes me more curious as to what went wrong. When things are fixed, my curiosity tends to wither. Change to include if and def. Define if and def. I think we might have that already sussed out. I think we might have done that at the end of the pins file, basically. Oh no, it's in conditionals post now. Yeah, it's built into conditionals post. Yeah, I did change it to include somewhere. I'm not sure what that functionality does. Yeah. Yeah, I can explain what it is. What does that do? Well, we found, well, basically, it ensures that for LCDs that don't use some custom, these are SPI pins. SPI pins that they can be assured of using the standard SPI hardware, I should say, pins. I don't know. Makes sense, right? Anyway, right. All right, so that's fun. Okay, back to the world of bugs. Or should I say issues? People used to say I have issues, but I don't think this is what they mean. Let's see, platform I/O setup configuration guide, feature request. It's Freddie. I understand why you want this. An add-on that goes ping. Yeah, how to set a platform I/O and compile for your target guide. That's a big guide, all right. I believe that platform I/O is different on every platform. Should I say platform? Operating system. And integrates differently with every IDE and tool set that integrate that. Not have way, I suppose, with it. And tool set that integrate with it. Platform I/O, by the way, it is a very nice way to build stuff, but I had it for a while as built into my Sublime editor, so I could just, be typing along and do a build right here, and catch my bugs this way, and it was pretty useful. I used dev.io2, you can see here, and I believe it was having issues at one point, but now I think I've gone backward, and I might actually now be able to use it again. It's been a while. Let's try it. Not possible to upload an empty sketch. Okay, oh, you know what it is? It's because you have to have some file from your project open. All right, so there we go. So if I build now, oh, hey, check it out. I guess I do have it in working order. Oh, I have to download a later version of Platform I/O or something. Anyway, yeah, cool. So I still have it working here. That's good. That's good. Unfortunately, I can't interrupt it to recover some processing, but we'll just let it go for a while here. Okay. I'm going to revisit my my chats here. Have I used Atom? I have used Atom, but I can't use Atom because I use the multi-file search a lot, and I do multi-line search a lot. And Atom's multi-line, multi-file search is broken. In fact, I think their multi-line search might... No, their multi-line search works on a single file, but if you try to do multi-line, multi-file search, it just doesn't work. And it's a fundamental issue in Atom because of the way that it searches and the code it uses, the library it uses for search. I have suggested somebody make a better search plugin. I myself don't have enough knowledge to do it. Okay, so I couldn't find U8G. That's fine. I'll do that later. So anyway, that's cool. Close other tabs. Close that tab. Okay, so anyhow, yeah, a nice thing you might have noticed if you look quickly, or if you rewind, is that when dev.iot finds bugs, it opens up the files and highlights the lines that have the bugs. And if it has error messages inside the console, I actually tweaked dev.iot, fixed some bugs in it so that it could properly select the line that you click on and show you where the bug is. But since more recent versions of dev.iot don't behave the way I like, I have avoided them. But I might start using them again if I try a new version that's more to my liking. But the last time I tried it had issues. And the patches that I had introduced seemed to get broken. And I'm not sure the person who's writing dev.iot knows or understands code super well, because they, I don't know, just some aggressive stuff happened after my submissions. But hopefully they're learning, as we all are. Let's see, what else we got here? Duty calls. Well, good to see we have things to do. Practical printing. Catch you next time. Oh, Ben's has a question from I don't know when. You ever use some sort of hardware emulator? There's no reliable hardware emulator that I know of that can run Marlin. There was one attempted by David Bram, and it's part of the Ultimaker. It's under the Ultimaker account on GitHub, and I have never been able to successfully get it to build. It uses SDL, which is a really cool cross-platform OpenGL library. And so it can do things graphically that are probably very interesting, and I would love to see it in action, but part of the issue is that you can't just write an Xcode project and expect everybody to be able to use it, because Xcode changes so often, and Apple changes their APIs so often, that 90% probably of the Xcode projects that are out there are just broken. And you're lucky if good luck if you can go download some old version of Xcode and get it to build. You probably can't. So it's one of the great frustrations of being an Apple developer, or having, or even working with Apple open source software, that they just cannot stop changing everything all the time, and things that used to work just won't anymore. So shame on you, Apple. Don't even get me started on Johnny Ive. Here's one issue I have that I've been bitching about today. Which of these two tabs up here is the selected one? There are two of them, so it's got to be one of them, right? And obviously it's the one that doesn't look like the other one, naturally. So of course it's the other one. The other one is selected. Or the one that you think, I don't know. But it's because they don't make tabs look like tabs anymore, attached to the body of the thing below, you can't tell which of these tabs is the selected tab. They're just buttons. They're square. They're squarish. This is not the correct interface for this particular thingy. It just isn't. I can look in, by context, I can tell that this is today, I think. No, it's notifications. See, it had the word today in it, so I thought it was today. But no, notifications is the selected one. See, I forget every time I look at it which one is selected. I guess the lighter one is the selected one, but there's no reason that it has to be. By convention, inverse on dark, maybe, but I just, okay, if everything were consistently this way, great. The lit up one is the thing, but old Apple, the way that Apple was before, this would be blue if it was the selected one. Just as this is blue, or it would be a tab and it would be attached to the body, and you would be able to tell which one was which. So again, this is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. Badly thought out UI. All right, it's a big guide, all right. That's a big guide. She's right. Different platform I/O is differently set up on every operating system. Integrates differently every idea into a system. Integrate with it. Sublime Text requires a plugin called DevIT. Atom and Visual Studio Code each have their own way of dealing with I/O. The best guides to setting these up and building with them is provided by Platform I/O itself on their website. Building Marlin Platform I/O is not any different from building other stuff, except it might be a little larger than your average sketch. There, how's that? Does that satisfy everyone? I don't know what to do about, I mean, I can probably make a page that points to these things, or at least links to them. But I'll mark this for documentation. All right, where are we at now? I would really love to hear from Alexei, but I have a feeling Alexei is not with us yet. Nope, she's at the Orthodox Church currently. It's too early in the Sunday for Alexei. Okay, so do I dare? Simply merge this? I mean, it makes sense to me. I really feel like I had done this before. That's kind of always the way when it comes to things that I'm fixing around these. I must have fixed this before. It looks right. Surely I noticed this last time. I have to think about how it affected dual X. Oh wait, that's right. This is outside the dual X context. All right, I'm gonna do it. Here it goes. We're getting merged. And after I merge, I typically delete my branches. Goodbye. The advantage there is that I actually have yet again, another handy script here. Go over to some other branch. I do mf clean, and that removes all the branches that were merged and all the ones that were deleted, so I don't have to look at them anymore. right? That's another thing about platform I.O. I'm not too fond of, with leaves droppings. Oh, also, that was the other thing. With Marlin 2, it leaves droppings all over the place. And I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'm not sure if it's Dev IoT or Platform IO that's responsible. Anyway, let's move on. I think we're pretty close to having something releasable for 117. I'm trying to think if there are any very serious bugs that didn't get hit. Well, I guess I'll find out quickly enough. Okay, M928, let's see if the read-write tab helps. Fatal error on 2X, okay. Connect printer with Bluetooth. Actually, I've been curious about this myself. I mean, you need special hardware to do Bluetooth, but what if it's built in? Yeah, I mean, there's a Bluetooth option. Yeah, Canoe's on top of it. All right. I'm getting sleepy. Obviously, I need another one of these ales. I know that Joel likes his gin. Oh no, rum. I prefer gin or martinis to rum, but let's take a look at the health of my stream while we're here. I'm an IPA person, I guess. I like the IPAs, I would say. Because there's consumption of magic soda here on this channel, I cannot monetize this video. And I'm sure I won't get banned though. YouTube's an interesting phenomenon unto itself these days. I mean, we kind of rely on YouTube at this point to a certain extent. I mean, there are people whose entire livelihood depends on it. The thing that might happen is that if too many people get demonetized or hit with penalty, all this kind of stuff that YouTube is doing now, I worry that, or not so much worry, but I feel that they'll probably start moving to other platforms, Twitch and etc. There are a few new platforms opening up, and I myself might do some twitching. I've been thinking of. I wrote a couple games in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, for the Amiga, and I've been thinking it'd be fun to do a Twitch, revisiting those games and giving them a playthrough. I have a good Amiga emulator now, so it would be fun to do. All right, we're down to 20% on the power, but we're holding up well. I'm going to probably quit in another, within the hour. I just want to get that last look at what's going on in bug report land. Nstop's always on default misbehaves when using the stall guide for both Max and Win. Someone had a patch for this, actually. And that's an interesting thing. I don't necessarily need to get this patch into the 117 release, because not too many of us are using the TMC 2130 stall guard feature. But that's a great feature. It allows you to basically use your stepper drive, your actual stepper motor as an end stop. If it bumps into something, it sends feedback that the stepper driver can catch, and boom. Ever thought about making separate configuration tabs for certain sensors, like the BL Touch, where all the pins and offsets are in one file? Actually, there has been one of those things we've gone over a lot. as developers and as users, whether it makes sense to have multiple configuration files, more than just the two. The first one generally is intended to deal with core settings and then features that you know or turn on. Standard features, stuff like your filament sensor, and things that you'll use often. I said often, I'm sorry, often, for those of you who don't like often. The the question is, does it make sense to like break them up even further? I think one thing I would consider is having an LCD config separately. That might be the only one, because as they start to multiply, it becomes harder to maintain and keep all the example configurations in sync. And that has been one of the issues. I don't want to get rid of the examples configurations. I don't want to replace the example configurations with something like a diff that you would apply to your configuration, which has been suggested. I don't want to have like the examples be things that modify the configurations, that would just have like 3 options in them either. Again, because they become hard to maintain. I can do a global search on an option and a few lines around it, and then like have it insert a new option below it in every file. And that's really handy. I like being able to do that. If we started getting to like 3 or 4 or 5 configuration files, it becomes harder to do that. It becomes harder to keep them in sync. And there's always these times when someone will submit something, and while that pull request is sitting around, there'll be changes to the configurations. They're submitting some example configuration, and it doesn't, and then it gets merged. But when it gets merged, it might not have the new changes, because we can't always go to every pull request that's sitting around and say, hey, you've got some config files, so you've got to make sure you update to the latest. There are just too many things going kind of all at once. They still get out of sync, and occasionally I have to go and do a compare of all the examples to the defaults and see if anything's missing that should have been added. I try to do that before each release. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting question. I think it makes, even though the configs are huge, huge-ish. A lot of that is the comments and descriptions. If you were to take out all the comments and descriptions, they end up being not too long. And the other thing is, you generally you kind of have to search for the option you're looking for anyway. And so just being able to start to open up the Find tab and have it just go straight down to the option sometimes is more convenient than having to open a separate file. So we kind of have gone back and forth on this a lot, and it's just sort of, at the moment, it does seem, it tends to be simpler to just have the two, and to keep things that are more obscure in the advanced one and things that are more important in the first one. But yeah, I can see the general issue is that they just keep growing and growing, and so yeah, the one thing is definitely the LCD maybe, but I don't know about things set, like each individual option having its own config file would start to get really hideous very quickly. So I think it would also be, the other thing is we can't leave out a file. Like there's no way that the compiler can say, hey, if this file doesn't exist, then just ignore that. If it doesn't find a file like that it wants to find, there's no way to like say, oh well, just don't worry if it can't find a file. If you have an include statement for a header file, it needs to find it. So it would be nice if we could have like things where you just drop the things you want into the folder. Hey, BL Touch, yeah, I'll take that, drop it in. Yeah, I want this feature. So what actually makes a good intermediary, and we want to do more, is have a good configurator tool. And there's a good one online right now that is being maintained and updated by somebody. And I want to honor his contribution because it's a really good one. Let me do a quick search for configurator in the issues. Configurator. Yeah, here it is. Web application. It's this guy, aka Jess. And there it is. So yeah, I would. This is where it's hosted. GitHub, Akajess, Marlin config. And the great thing about GitHub is that if you have a GitHub repository, you can make it into a website. In fact, that's how the Marlin Firmware website works. It's actually hosted on GitHub. When we update the GitHub, it updates the website. And that way people can submit changes and we can integrate them and then publish. And yeah, I've got shell scripts for those too that I use to update and publish. So here it is, Marlin config releases, and there's an instructables for it. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the Marlin config and giving feedback to the author. He's obviously highly devoted to Marlin, if his icon is any indication. And I didn't mean to be dismissive to this guy. I'm just very busy with the core of Marlin itself, and I can't really work on this. I actually did my own version of a configurator, or I started one, and the idea of mine was it would be written in JavaScript, so it could run anywhere. Just drop it on your web browser, and boom, it's right there. It works. It would run off your desktop. It didn't have to run from a website. The other thing it would do is it would grab the configs from GitHub, and then it would actually parse the configurations, and then by parsing the configurations with a few annotations added in, which is what those @section bits are about, it would put them on in tabs. And then, and so I actually did make one, which is hosted at, do I have a tab? I think I actually have is it here? Yeah. 404 not found. Okay, so it's under Thinkyhead, Thinkyhead Marlin configurator. Geez, I don't know why it's not here. But I think it's here. Logit/index.html, something like that. No? Okay. Well, anyway, I do have. Let me pull up my All right, so if I go to my branch, is that it? What do you know? Okay, so here it is. If I go source index, okay, so it might be under source index. So if I go to raw git, go to my history here. Raw git. Raw git Marlin Firmware, Thinkyhead Marlin configurator source. I think. Would that be it? No. I can't find a link. Well, anyway, I think I might have it on localhost, possibly. I don't know. But there was a. It's pretty cool. I would like to show it to you, but it is hard to find. Let me see. Maybe if I go to my Safari, it's in those bookmarks. Marlin configurator. It would be nice if I put a link on the page. Well, anyway, I'll show it to you next time. I'll do a stream where I go over some of that. But yeah, the general idea was, again, parse the files, and then everything would be hostable. That way, it would always get the latest stuff. And then if you wanted to use one of the example configs, you could just show up in a drop-down, pick the example config you want to start with. And the cool part was the JavaScript has gotten really powerful. So not only just running it right in the browser, not off a website, no backend, no server, anything. You can make your changes to using the interface to the configuration files, and then you can just hit download a zip, and it'll actually create a zip file for you in the browser and download it into your download folder. And then your configs would be right there. So very, very cool what you can do with JavaScript now. I assume that the configurator that Akajes, I don't know how to pronounce it, Akajes is working on is similar. So let's check it out if you can. Let's see a link to it somewhere. New feature, look, you put in editing your custom boot screen image. How about that? You can actually, yeah, see, now we're talking. That's cool. So I highly recommend that as a great alternative to lots of configuration files. Hope that's not too much. Yeah, people always want to uncomment. Well, you just uncomment BL Touch, and it is. That's all it takes. You uncomment it, and then BL Touch is ready. There is you don't have to do multiple things with BL Touch. You used to, but right now you just uncomment BL. You enable BL Touch, and that's it. You're done. You do have to set your offset, of course. You know, how far is it from your nozzle? But yeah, it's just one option now. That said, I have a BL Touch on my Prusa that I've been so lazy. I haven't even set it up and tested it yet. Basically because I know it's going to be like a whole day of messing with it. BL Touch is a little fiddly. I noticed we found that if you have your heater on, it ruins the accuracy of the BL Touch. If you have your fan on, it can cause issues with your BL Touch, just from the vibration, if not the electrical noise. So what we have now is options to disable the fan and the heater just during that interval when it's moving down to probe the bed, just so you have no electrical noise and no vibration, no extra vibration anyway. But that's the other thing is, depending on the speed you move, and Tom can back this up. You've seen videos about it, and he's got a whole video on the accuracy of probes, and it is shown to be quite true that you need to go slower on your second probe at least. And really, frankly, there's no reason to have two probes. Well, the reason for the first probe is just to find the bed in the first place, and then the second probe counts. But the thing is, if you're doing multiple probes of the bed, a not-so-dirty secret is that after the first probe, you don't need to do fast probes on any of the other probes. They can all be slow probes, because we now know where the bed is. Assuming your bed is not tilted at 15 degrees or some ridiculous amount, there's no reason to do fast probes after the first one. In fact, after homing, if you just know you're homed, there's no reason to do fast probes, ever. The only reason to do you can do a fast move down to, let's say, just before the probe height, say a centimeter above the bed. Once you've been homed, you know where you are, and then do a slow probe from there. And again, this whole double probing thing, if we're double probing on every point, it's a waste of effort. We know where all the points are, after that first probe. So that might be something to optimize later. Or actually, heck, I'll do it this week. That sounds like a good idea. I'm going to add it to my notes. I have Marlin notes. Been working on this motion handling note a little bit. Things to fix. I did that. And let's see, default value for me. Make a note of that. Okay, so here we have no need for fast code. Once the general bed height is known. So there you go. It's on my list. Oh, right. Have you seen the Z Baby Step graphics? Yeah, they need a little work. If only we had grayscale. No, that's not the disease you get on Game of Thrones. Get the rest of the MK2 S&M code ported. Single nozzle, multiple single nozzle. Yeah, I've been working on that. Notable forks. Yeah, I wanted to add notable forks. MK4 Duo is a great branch. Marlin Kimbra, or Mago Kimbra, is doing an awesome job. Every time that we integrate something new in Marlin, he studies it, he sees how it works, and then he works it out to put it into his fork, and oftentimes catches our mistakes and makes it better. So a lot to the Marlin Kimbra branch. It's a huge boom. Yeah, piezo probes. Yeah, those are interesting. I don't know how I feel about piezos. I like the you know, what are they called? Proximity probes, generally inductive proximity probes. But the fact that they require some kind of metal conduction is it used to be a showstopper for me because I was using glass, like just nothing but glass, no aluminum, just glass. In fact, glass on top, right directly on top of the heater PCB, and it worked really well actually. It heated up a lot faster than my current setup, which is now sandwiched with. Actually, I'm using aluminum now. It has, but the good thing about aluminum is it holds its temperature better than glass. So I'll give it that. Yeah, planning on rolling Crucial changes. Any and all, pretty much, whatever we can. There's already a bunch of changes in the MK2 fork, and that I'm anxious to bring in, and not all of them originate from the MK fork. For example, they brought in a fixed point version of the planner, which is something that has been in a couple of forks before, and something that I've been interested in bringing in. But because the main Marlin fork has to deal with many machines, we can't have all the speed and luxury that of changes that Preprocessing, for example, or other vendors have. Preprocessing now is saying things like they've got very little of Marlin in their firmware now, and okay. I think that might be exaggeration, but I'll see what happens when the MK3 comes out. I think that very little Marlin is really a way of saying, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they don't need. They don't have certain sensors. They don't have every bloody thing that Marlin supports, and so they can strip that all out. Frankly, I've done that before. I've taken a branch that I have that only thing I needed was Z-axis movement. That's all I needed. And a G-code parser and some of the basics, like talking talking to the host and stuff so I could debug it. And the whole thing was controlled by I2C messages, little tiny ones. You know, if you wanted to home, just send H. That was it. If you wanted to, you know, do bed leveling, you send an L, and it would control 4 independent Z motors. And so there's a fork of Marlin out there that I have that's just this tiny bit, and I stripped out everything. And you know, I could say there's very little Marlin in there, but you know, it's still based on the Marlin planner, the Marlin G-code parser. Like, so much of it really is stuff that comes from Marlin, and so I can never say it's not Marlin. So when I hear that kind of hyperbole, I feel like a little dissed. But the fact that Prussia is one of my Patreon supporters makes it it tempers my feelings about that. I feel grateful because in a lot of ways, Prussia has been the person who inspired me to get into 3D printing a lot in the first place. His Prusa MK, his original Prusa i3 design is genius. I mean, if you compare MK2, or rather, I should say, I'm sorry, the Prusa i2 or the Mendel, you know, the Prusa Mendel to the Prusa i3, I mean, it's like day and night. The number of parts, the number of vitamins, the number of rods, and the weight of the thing, just, I mean, it just is, and at the same time, it maintains its sturdiness and rigidity just by adding a flat plate, you know, and you could build it out of plywood if you wanted to. And I thought that was an awesome aspect of his design. I mean, and so I mean, I went searching. I looked at all the printers that were out in 2013 or so, and of all the ones that were out there that you could buy or build, I kept coming back to the i3. So, you know, the fact that it's still alive and well today and still being refined is awesome. I mean, it's a nice design, and you know, when you look at something like the Creality CR10, you know, or others that are derived from that same idea. You know, the main thing that the CR10 brings to it is simplicity. It's somewhat of a simpler idea in that it's built of all extrusions, and you know, it's Bowden from the outset, and you know, it's just very much standardized and sturdy, and that's the main thing. Your printer should be rigid, and if you get something that's rigid, I mean, you can almost make a brick turn into a 3D printer if you put if it's rigid enough. In the same way that you know, put a big enough engine on it, you can make a brick fly very well. So I'm not calling Creality a brick, but it is definitely very sturdy, very rigid, and that's what it needs to be. The fact that it has a cantilevered Z-axis is, you know, I haven't found that to be an issue, but you know, the 10S takes care of that. Adds a filament sensor, which is nice. You know, again, it's a cheap addition, but it really improves the experience. You know, when you run out of filament, it's a big deal. You know, and they've done a great job of making it, you know, recover. They're using the M600 code submitted by a couple of really cool people. Submitted the M600 thing. Actually, a father and son team submitted a lot of that stuff, and we've done a great job of integrating it to the point where someone like Creality can just out of the box use it as their filament recovery feature. There's still some things I'd like to do with it. Like right now with the M600 feature, you can't just load. You have to eject and load. You can't just eject. You have to eject and load. So I want to make it so you can just eject or just load, or if you want, eject and load. But it's turned a little fancier, so I want to be careful about that. There's a whole, like, you know, heat up loop and stuff that I won't do. If you're already heating up, it'll be heat up loop. If you're not, it waits for you to heat up and then it'll be heat up loop. Okay, so let's take one quick last look at what remaining bugs we have, or issues. Let's see if I've gotten a reply about some of these other things. And look, someone wants display the Z offset on this data spire. I don't use auto bed leveling. Yeah, it's true. You do need to find out what your Z offset is and then adjust it. Such a pain. Yeah, so this is one of the things that's been going around is people want different stuff on their display, but we provide, like, here's your display, and it'd be nice to have, like, we have a couple options that will modify things, but wouldn't it be nice if you could just say, okay, I want this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this. And, basically this way just put together with those things. I mean, obviously there's some stuff that we've kept around for a really long time that's kind of dumb. Like showing X and Y during a print is pointless. There's no reason for it. So I would at least like to have the options to customize the display, choose which things we want to display. I think that'd be cool. So that we don't keep getting these requests for, hey, wouldn't it be neat if you could show this. We could just, make a lot of little bits that we could then put together and then make a display out of. And maybe there'd be, a few standard things, but I'd certainly like to have display more, definitely more concise and offer these kinds of options. But let's put this down as a feature request, and I'll come back to it later. All right. Okay. Heard my yawning. All right. Opened. Replied to. Hope so. All right, and I have a good feeling. I think if I don't get any major reports tomorrow, I might just go for that 1.17 release. Let's see. Oh, this is another one where there's an M192 request, but actually we have we're almost there with an M280, I think, or M290. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around these offsets. They confuse me as a coder as well. M206, M851. I'll make a guide on these things, but yeah, I'll have to make some guidance. But basically, yeah, M206 has always been a stupid feature. I'm not sure why it exists, honestly, but I was one of the first people to tweak it and screw with it, and then I added M428, which sort of automates it, and an option to set the home offset from the LCD display, and yeah, I just yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. The M206 has always been a source of confusion for people because it offsets the workspace, but then so did M92, yeah, M92. So the question became like, why do I want a home offset or a workspace offset? And I think maybe initially it was meant to be like a separate thing from M92. That your let me pull up marlinfirmware.org for a second. And we'll see, here we have all the G-code commands are here. And so, yeah, it was, sorry, I should have said G92. G92 sets the current position, not M92. Yeah, so basically, originally it simply set your position. That was it. So if you set yourself, so say your end stops were at 0, 100, 200, typical, and you decided, hey, I'm going to set G92, I'm going to set my position as 400. Well, you can no longer move to the right because you're way past your right-hand end stop. You can only move left. So why would you do that? So what we did was move the end stops when you moved. And this was before changing the workspace, the native workspace. And so it added to the complexity of the code because you want to make something work right, but then the way that the fundamental underlying foundational design was problematic to begin with, and so it simply compounds the problems, adds more and more overhead. So this kind of thing wouldn't have been as much of a big deal if the native workspace stuff had already been there. G92 and so forth wouldn't cause the kinds of issues that they did, or become as complicated. So yeah, a lot of what's going on now with bugs popping up and so forth, and various issues, partly to do with unified bed leveling. Some of them had to do with the nozzle offset, as you saw, which is now fixed, thankfully. Not a lot of people are using the dual nozzles, which is probably why you can get that report very quickly. But yeah, between the massive changes in the native workspace, and then there were just certain features that were implemented without full understanding of the system that have slowly been evolving and getting more into compliance with how the rest of Marlin works. So there may have been things, for example, in the unified bed leveling that didn't account for the way that the weirdness of the workspace offsets. So, but managed to work around it by happenstance. And so when I went to fix the native workspace offsets, some stuff broke there that maybe wouldn't have otherwise. But anyway, it comes down to the fact that it is a huge bunch of code, and not everybody can understand all the ins and outs of how things work. And the code itself is self-documented. You can read through the code, and I've been adding a lot of commentary wherever it seems unclear, but there can always be more. And even with all the work I've been doing on Marlin, to know every part of it and know what's going on with each and every subsystem, it becomes hard to keep track of it after a while. I try to keep an eye on everything every day and make sure that anything that gets in that is submitted is sensible and is ready for prime time. And so I do end up touching a lot of the code or getting familiar with a lot of the code that I might not otherwise. So I'll try and deal with this M428 bug later. But yeah, I thought it would be a lot more to do. There'd be a lot more bugs, but we dealt with the glaring ones apparently. I'm not going near 2.0 right now, although I may find that there's a 2.0 bug that is mirrored in 1.0, so I should check it out at 1.1. No more 1.0. There is no Marlin 1.0. It's every version of Marlin before 1.1 is Marlin 1.0. Okay, manual delta tuning. That's actually an interesting question. There is G33. Yeah, okay, yeah. The author of G33 has popped up. Luke Van Deel. Dale? 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 Well, anyway, Luke is awesome. Initially, as with the first submission that Luke put in, I was like, you don't want to put your name all over your feature. We get credit for changes in Marlin by the fact that our names or our handles are on the commit log. You don't have to put a message in there that you're the author. But as I think about Marlin, the thing about Marlin is since it's a community effort, it's hard to say who is responsible for any individual bit. There may be initiators who create the first implementation, and then a lot of them come back and they maintain that stuff, which is great. But but yeah, like the number of people who do one-offs and never show up again is pretty high. But Luke has been really on top of the G33 delta calibration stuff, and so the question has started to come to me about, like, well, how do you decide who holds the copyright on Marlin? Like, if someone God forbid, doesn't release their source after releasing the binary, and you have to, like, deal with them under the GPL. Who's the copyright holder? And ultimately, it's many people are copyright holders. And then, what constitutes a copyright? If a person makes a feature and has like an implementation of it, and then I go in and I decide I'm going to overhaul it and change this and that and rewrite this part, does that water down the copyright? Am I part of the copyright now? It becomes somewhat complicated. So generally speaking, we've been putting just copyright original person, Eric van der Zalm or David Brown or other people who have contributed early on to the project, get certain copyright rights. Gerbil is mentioned oftentimes in the Marlin documentation as being core. Marlin is a fork of Gerbil, and a mashup of Gerbil and Sprinter. And Sprinter is still alive and well. I see that out there a lot. And it's evolving even so. So can we say that now that Gerbil has changed so much, are we still Gerbilish? There's a lot of stuff in Gerbil that we should be looking at too. But I don't want to forget that there was a question about the MK, the Prusa stuff. I already started integrating the single nozzle multi-material, which is basically the multi-extruder that they made. But all I've done so far is like the command that lets you switch from one to the other, and the code that drives it. So, but I haven't put in the fancier stuff, like when you want to switch from one to the other. There's a whole, retract and then insert part, and the Prusa fork is very careful about going slow and then fast, and then making sure basically not to leave a whole bunch of residue in the nozzle. By going slow, it's an interesting thing. There's a plug that's always in there of material, and so if you go too quickly, you'll basically just create a big stretched bunch of material. And how do you? And you've seen how the material swells, and so if you pull it out of the nozzle, you can't just push the filament back in. So whatever they do with their setup, they have to make sure, I don't know, maybe it's at a funky angle or something, but they have to make sure that it pulls out in such a way that it leaves that plug in the nozzle. It doesn't pull it out and make it so that it can't push back in. So there's a lot of stuff there that they've done experimentation with to make sure that it works. And so, we have to integrate that very same movement pattern. So that's something I need to do soon. I've been so intent on just going through issues and stuff and making sure that things are getting integrated for both 1.1 and for 2.0, and keeping everything in line that I just haven't had as much time as I'd like to do that kind of stuff. And even to just mess with my own machine. I'd like to take some days off and work on some of that stuff, but I keep coming back every day to the Marlin project to check on it, and it ends up taking up like, I don't know, it'll eat up 3 or 4 hours of my day easily. So I'm anxious to definitely get more into that stuff and integrate more of the MK2 stuff. Their filament sensor is interesting. The fact that it's based on an optical mouse, I guess, so it can tell if the filament is moving or stopped. So it not only detects when the filament has run out, but it can detect when the filament has gotten clogged or other issues have come up and prevent it from, maybe even prevent it from kinking up inside the, well, I don't know. I guess by the time it's not moving, it's probably already pretty kinked up. So if you're using flexible materials on a Prusa, there's probably a good chance it can recover from a kinked up situation, but maybe not. Maybe you wouldn't notice that because oftentimes what will happen, depending on the design of your nozzle, I'm sure they have it well constrained with a tube of PTFE to prevent any kind of kinking from happening, and so maybe their detector works really well on that level, but they must have some amount of filament exposed somewhere above it, and that probably it's above the. I would imagine it's above it. It has to be. Those of you designing filament sensors, remember it has to be before the drive, not after, because you want to have it detect that it's not moving at that point. So my thought is probably the way that their thing is designed, you don't have to worry about flexible filaments more than non-flexible ones. So in general, that's one thing I'm really anxious to get integrated. Frankly, I would really like to have support in Marlin for MakerBot. Some of the more recent MakerBot models that it currently it doesn't support any. I think maybe the Cupcake might be the only one that you could probably get Marlin to work on easily. But anything after that, there's a lot of they start involving more SPI and stuff. So there's multiple SPI enable lines going to different things, and so there would need to be extra code thrown in. I've gotten better at understanding the issues of SPI and how to work with it, so that might be something that I'll be able to do more easily. So I have an Ultimain, or one of those is sitting in the pull request pile. I think it's probably the very last pull request. Yeah, Ulti-Controller 2.1. Is that it? So it's somewhere in my list, but it's something that I need to work on at some point. But it'd be fun to have those kinds of things. And I don't know. After seeing Print the Legend, I'm really anxious to get Marlin working on a MakerBot, just because I'm not such a fan of MakerBot. Anyway, if you haven't seen Print the Legend, check it out. It starts out being sort of about 3D printing, but then suddenly it's all about people and whether or not to sell your soul to make a buck. And so I think that's something that we should all watch a lot. We'll get together. We'll have a get together. We'll all watch it. It'll be fun. It's on Netflix, right? All right. Well, it's just hitting midnight now, and I figure this is a good place to stop. Yeah, I hear you about Bree. I actually had a lot of sympathy for Bree in a way, because, it's sort of like he wanted to be the guy who could play the game, but on a certain level, he just couldn't be the guy who could play the game. You know, there's still a nugget of soul there that wouldn't let him be comfortable with it, and you kind of sense that, you know, and at the same time, like, you know, he enjoyed doing he was a real engineer on a certain level. Really liked the technology, liked being a face of the technology for a while, and I think he was really excited about that. But then, you know, yeah. Anyway, we can all speculate about Bray, or we could have him over for dinner and just laugh about it all. Because certainly at this point, Bray is you know, free to move on and do other and better things, get back into engineering and so forth. I know that I for one, you know, I'm not comfortable anywhere around the nouveau riche or any of that stuff. So yeah, I tend to just want to stick with the code and be an engineer, and let other people deal with the nouveau riche. Uh, and you know, you know, kudos to Bray for trying, and having a hairstylist, and all those sorts of things that people try to do. But yeah, it's definitely not for most of us, I think. Certainly not in this space, and certainly not for the people I tend to deal with in the world of Marlin code. Uh, Most of us, I think, are still very much in that homebrew computer club mindset, where we just like sharing and want to explore the technology. We aren't looking to, you know, get our patent and sell out, and I think that's a good thing. We need to, especially with, you know, STEM education, or as Adam Savage likes to call it, STEAM education, include art. Art is vital. I mean, it's not, you know, there is whatever your job or work may be, there is some science or technique or technology involved. There always is. If you're a painter, you got to know how to mix your paints. You got to know what kind of thinner to use and stuff like that. What kind of canvases are good. But at the same time, you know, there's an art to it. You know, you can mathematically describe a brushstroke to somebody, but, you know, doing that brushstroke, you know, learning to do that stroke, learning to make that line, that's developing intuition. And I think that everybody needs both. You'd have to have both knowledge about your interest and your discipline that you know, gather, and then also you develop the art around it. And that, to me, is like, you know, it makes even things like code are an expressive medium to an extent. Not too expressive. I mean, I understand, you know, like the feeling a person gets if they like submit a poem to your journal and you're the editor, and you decide to change a few lines in the poem to make it better. As an editor, I guess you have a right to do that, but you're probably not going to get submissions from that person anymore. But in code world, you know, it's the onus of the developer to have a thick skin and understand that changes are going to be made to the code. It doesn't belong to them once they've submitted it, and that, you know, there's going to be someone who's going to come along who's maybe a better technologist, who's going to technologify their code more, and take away its expressiveness, and make it more generic or something. You know, and, you know, maybe they wrote cute, you know, error messages, and you go in and say, that's too cute. Sorry, you have to change that to be more formal, because, you know, that expression doesn't go over so well in Japan. Whatever. You know, there are just various factors that have to be thought about on many levels that I don't expect every developer to consider. You know, I'm trying to be mindful of a lot of things and keep a lot of ducks in a row, between the documentation, the website, the submissions that are coming in, fixing the bugs, trying not to create too many when I overhaul this and that, doing a modicum of testing and various other things. At the same time, like my days right now are devoted to MakerArm. So I have to be in the office some number of days and some number of hours to help keep that moving forward and to be a resource. But the actual number of things that need to be coded or put together formally in the firmware, whether it's evolutionary. It's an interesting thing, but there's so many things over the last couple of years that have come in just at the right time to help me with the work that I've been doing with the SCARA system, or to deal with some problem that I've had. And then there have been things that I've done to help work with the MakerArm to try and make it better or operate better that have been great general fixes for Marlin. And so it's like, I find it valuable to kind of work on both at the same time. What I try to do with every bit of work that I do on the firmware for this vendor is to be mindful of how it might, to be mindful that I'm building features and I'm not taking a version of Marlin that's going to be on its own island and be impossible to reintegrate. All the work that I'm doing for MakerArm, once they release their machine, is going straight back into the main fork. And so I'm keeping it all in pretty well organized in separate commits by feature. And occasionally things that I do that are more generic do end up creeping in into the main fork. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work with various other vendors, but these guys are really open to at least this version of the MakerArm being completely open source, at least on the firmware side. I think they're anxious to be more customary as a vendor in future and get closed source, at which point I might have to, I'd either have to bow out or hire someone subordinate who is not familiar with Marlin, because when you do that, if you want patents and that kind of thing and you don't want to release it, you have to clean them. You can't give someone Marlin and say, "There, go take this and modify it, and we'll just hide it from the world." You can't do that. Someone can easily pull down the binary and look at it and go, "Look at this! Look at all this text is straight out of Marlin." And the other thing about about that is going to be, how well can this machine in future interoperate? Again, it'll have to be clean roomed. Yes, you're allowed to totally use all the text in Marlin. If you can see it coming out of the machine and coming into your serial terminal, you are totally within rights to take all the things that are on the surface and use them. But if you want to, if you need a stepper routine and you go, "I don't know how to write a stepper routine, I'll just use Marlin's," at that point you're beholden to the GPL. So whomever they decide to get for the next phase, and whomever any vendor gets for their closed source projects, they need to take careful consideration of the fact that so much of what is available and what's being done, the hard work has been done already. So much of it in the open source world, so many problems have already been solved that their clean room newbie neophyte implementation is not going to get the advantages that are already present, and they're going to be wasting thousands of hours. And if a person is being paid as a programmer, I prefer to get at least some reasonable, 50 an hour is like a minimum. And we're talking maybe I'm thinking in $1980 terms or something. 50 an hour sounds reasonable to me at a certain level, but I guess that's not in line with inflation. People who were paid to do code in the 80s, say 40 or 50 an hour, should be getting paid rightfully 100, 150 an hour now, because the cost of living has gone up that much. But I think we're about the halfway point there. I think most get about maybe $80 an hour if they get that. So I can't imagine someone spending thousands of hours, $50 an hour, to make a firmware that is only its only marginal advantage is that it would be closed source, and so you don't have to release it. I just don't see the advantage there, especially now with all the 32-bit work being done in Marlin, with all the potential of the dynamic stepper drivers and all that kind of stuff. So I do try to evangelize with these guys about being more open source, but I get this I'm getting a little bourgeoisie kind of vibe and a little nouveau riche vibe going on, and so I don't know, I don't feel like there's much receptivity to my view. I point to people like Aleph Objects and the Wallsbot, and I point to Prusa, and I say, look at these guys. These are highly admired, people who are like, they're shipping lots of units every month, and a lot of that is on the good faith of the community. A lot of the people who are buying Prusas, they're not buying it as their first and only first-time printer because it looks so, because it's such a great device, and it got reviewed well in Make magazine. Probably a lot of people are, but thousands of us, I am sure, if not hundreds, if not thousands, are buying these things as our second, third machines, and we're buying a couple of them, and if we like, and a lot of it is because we like these vendors. We like Aleph Objects, and we like Prusa, and we like, these open source people, and we admire what they're doing. We want to support them in the same way, like our Patreons, and we like the people who do our reviews and and entertain us on YouTube, and we're happy to support them. And and in the same sense, like that's the good faith. That's the good faith business model. So much of it relies on that good faith. And when you get into this, oh well, here comes some guy and he's decided he's going to have a Kickstarter, but he's going to use everything that the work of the community, and he's going to take advantage of all these design choices and things. And then he's going to try and patent it all and keep it all closed source. People get kind of a little resentful about that. And the thing is, when people go to buy these machines, the people they turn to for advice are people who already have them or who are interested in 3D printing. And a lot of us are like, yeah, you should totally go with Prusa or go with whoever, or Creality is a good value or whatever. For various reasons, we like certain things, and I like Creality on the basis that they're using Marlin, and and that they were receptive when Real Sexy Cyborg went out to talk to the Creality people. She was really adamant about the fact that they should be sticking with open source and trying to use the latest stuff, and they seemed to turn around really quickly and they're using more recent versions of Marlin, and they've taken some of the improvements and brought them in the filament change and all that, and that kind of stuff happened very quickly, and they were able to turn it around very quickly because these things are there and the work is being done, and they can just pick it up and go forward with it. And I wouldn't mind seeing the other thing Creality is doing is using standard, fairly standard board. All the parts. You can very easily customize this machine, and that's another thing we like. Yeah, I can totally customize it. I can print new parts for it. It starts out being very basic, but I can continue to build on it, and people appreciate that. So that's my rant. But I just feel like more vendors need to pay attention to this community. You're not going to be able to sidestep it or start some new market that easily. I understand that the Maker Arm, for example, is not primarily a 3D printing machine, but it runs Marlin. Marlin is what runs it, and 3D printing is definitely one of its core features. And I think people expect, probably I would guess most of the people who bought into the Kickstarter are going with the 3D printing kit first, and maybe the laser kit second. And I think the CNC kit is probably third on that list, even though CNC is a big part of it because there's going to be a whole host and custom software to go with that. But I feel like CNC is, is very well covered by sturdy kinematic Cartesian machines that are well constrained and can handle the side loads that CNC deals with. A SCARA arm, 400 millimeters long, just by virtue of physics, is not going to have an easy time with those kinds of loads, side loads, vibrations, everything else. So it's a huge design challenge, and it's being worked on, and we are anxious to see it. But I think it's going to be, it's going to be the kind of CNC all-in-one that is, the fact that it does more than just CNC is going to be the selling part. It's not going to be primarily viewed as a really great CNC solution if people just want CNC. So I don't know. I can't talk too much about what MakerArm is doing, but my general feelings about it are, I think they're well known, both to my employers and to the community. So in general, you look at what the reviewers might say, and I can sort of anticipate what some of the reviewers might say about these things. And so, would it make sense, for example, to send out a MakerArm to Maker's Muse? I don't know. His beat is more 3D printing than CNC, and so would that be the right machine for him to review? And on the 3D printing level, does it meet expectations? I think it's as good as any other SCARA for 3D printing. I'd give it that. There's some nice enhancements that we're making, getting it to do more smooth motion, for example, without preprocessor is one thing I've been anxious to try and get it to do. And so lots of optimizations coming in. But preprocessor isn't so bad either. It works. So in any case, I don't know. At this point, let's see. Lulzbot contributes 0 to Marlin. The custom firmware they claim is then changing the LCD menu. Actually, Lulzbot and Aleph Objects have been my top patron for a couple of years, donating several bills. They've been paying for a lot of my development work on Marlin. So I can't say they're not contributing to Marlin. I think originally they were hoping I would jump in and do some more work on the Cura, the custom Cura version, but I'm not as familiar with Cura, and Marlin eats up more than enough of my time, and I'm sure provides more than enough value to what they do. So I can't diss Aleph Objects or say that they haven't been contributors. And in future, who knows? I might hit them up for a job if I happen to be in the Colorado area or decide to leave Austin. We'll see. But anyway, So their particular contributions back to Marlin, I don't know. I do get. There's a couple guys who do pop in from a couple different vendors, and I'm sure Lulzbot Aleph Objects has a couple of guys popping in who contribute and or tell me about bugs or make suggestions. So there's there's definitely some ongoing interaction happening there. So if that's not well known by the community, hey, Aleph Objects has been has been a good patron of mine, and they haven't made any demands or anything. So they just seem to be glad that I'm here keeping it going, keeping it from stagnating. And certainly at this point, Marlin is taking on a momentum. When I first came to it in 2012, it was getting pretty dead. There wasn't much going on. It was hard to get a response, and if you submitted a patch, it was all very uh, they were very timid about incorporating any large changes, and and I think things have definitely changed a lot since. And a lot of it just has to do with it's like anything. Once you start making changes, people will come in to complain, and initially, that's how kind of it started, but more and more momentum builds, and it's really just kind of continued to build. So. Yeah, I mean it's like anything; it has a life of its own, and I am sure, and that the success of Prusa and the success of other vendors who use Marlin, and who have been using Marlin, funded by Aleph Objects. A lot of Marlin development funded by Aleph Objects is being used by a lot of other vendors, and that's really what it doesn't harm Aleph Objects' bottom line. Ultimately, because in the same way that you say like, yeah, if I download some song without paying for it, am I stealing money from somebody? Well, if you were never going to buy it in the first place, no. If you're not a big buyer of things, but you happen to be curious about something one day, download it. The thing is that it's like Photoshop. Everybody knows Photoshop. Every kid probably has a pirated version of Photoshop, or has had. And it's because of that Photoshop just continue to exist. We all rely and depend on Photoshop. And so, yeah, sure, initially we may have our pirated copies of Photoshop as kids, but then we get our business going, and we buy several licensed copies, and all our employees have them, and we all have Photoshop. These guys seem to understand that these are, it's the ocean we swim in, it's the air we breathe. And that these are simply the resources that we're building things out of. Nobody's trying to patent the resistor, so you can only use their resistor. We all use the same resistors with the same types of designs, and in the same way, Marlin is a piece of the puzzle, but it relies on so much else for its viability. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. You can find out how much Aleph Objects is supporting me by visiting my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Thinkyhead, and you can find out who's supporting me, and publicly. There's a few anonymous supporters. I also have a GoFundMe page, which I believe is GoFundMe/Marlin-Firmware, GoFundMe.com/Marlin-Firmware. I'll put the links in the description down below, and links to anything else that I can think of. Yeah, thanks for stopping in, and I hope to do more of this kind of thing in the future. Be a little less long, and hopefully be more focused on. There's definitely some things that will need going over and maybe overhauling, and maybe on one of those expeditions I'll do a video and go through some of that process. Anyway, I'm gonna hit the stop streaming button as soon as possible, and I suppose I'll probably do this in I don't know, maybe next week. I don't know. Get some feedback on how 117 is doing. I expect to get that out maybe tomorrow if I get good feedback on the things that I've fixed. I still worry about glitches from the native workspace patch. So I'm going to put it out tentatively. So there may be a 118 a couple days later, but that's how we roll. The nightly build is what it is, And if people aren't testing it on their various machines, it's hard to know where the bugs are, and so sometimes we just have to put out 117 or the next version just to get feedback. We added some good stuff to PID tuning. The main things that are important, thermal protection, are still there. So if you're going to be doing testing, of course take the usual precautions, but I think that the most unsafe stuff is covered. You may get weird motion or things a little out of alignment or whatever, or other little glitches, but I think that for the most part, the safety features are solid. The things that we're touching now are mainly, it's coming down to refinements. And 117, if nothing else, has a lot of optimizations over 116 and should run a bit faster, or at least use fewer resources, and so should be more performant, especially with Delta and Scala. So anyway, ciao for now. Thanks for stopping in.